Шановні друзі, ми будемо продовжувати форум про Mental Health. Я прошу вас усіх проходити в зал, займати свої місця. Будь ласка.
Friends, we're about to continue our event, so please come back and take your seats in the hall.
Проходьте, будь ласка, сідайте. Дуже
Please
приємно.
take your
Я звернула на
seats.
це увагу.
I'm really pleased to notice that you actually approach our banner, where we build the image of resilient community, your understanding of resilience. You can leave your feedback or not, so if for some reason you missed it, you forgot about our banner, please make sure to use it. And now we're about to start our third panel discussion, which will be about resilience. So what's a resilience is? At scientific, at general, at individual, at collective, at various levels. How can we foster resilience in response to war-related events? How people and veterans in particular can be reintegrated into active social and economic life. To participate in this discussion, I invite Oksana Boyka, PhD in social work, head of Poltavets Social Work School, Kyiv-Mogilska Academy, National University. Irina Gladka, head Olena Yarmoluk, psychologist, psychotherapist, supervisor, trainer and professional of the Residence Center from Rivne. And Olga Sergienko, please join us. Olga Sergienko is a psychotherapist, the head of Kyiv branch of the Family Circle Center, and she teaches at the Ukrainian Institute of Cognitive and Behavioral Therapy. Dear colleagues, so what the resilience is at the collective, at the general, and in the individual level. Let's start with some general definition and then move down to individual level and perception. What are some of the criteria? How do we measure it? Miss Oksana, maybe you can start our discussion. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to welcome you. And I think the best way to answer this question is to take a look at our community resilience portrait, the creation of which you contributed to today during the first half of our day. Because I saw a lot of clouds there and I saw a lot of images of people. You mentioned values, you mentioned unity, you mentioned cohesion, you mentioned professionals who implementing this project. Actually, the resilience-based approach has become especially important after the UN system reformed its model for emergency response. They revisited their approaches and realized that amidst disasters and wars, people in various parts of the world respond in different way. But very often, this response is either only of humanitarian nature only without taking into account the development dimension, or they were not really efficient. So at some point, so in 2005, almost 20 years ago, they did the research and they implemented a resilience, sustainability approach to better understand how to act amidst war, crisis, natural disasters, and man-made disasters as well. So this approach emerged as opposite to trauma approach, Before that, we used to believe that everyone affected would be traumatized and would need professional psychological support. However, scientific researchers uh, involving orphans who succeeded, later succeeded in their adult life, and involving people constantly exposed to traumatic events, led practitioners and scientists to a conclusion, and decision makers to a conclusion that it's not so simple. There is a comprehensive There is a comprehensive concept of resilience which combines several factors. WHO defines resilience as an ability to bounce back after difficult situations, but this concept is actually much wider. It's not just about quick recovery, it's also about our coping strategies, the ways we use to cope with various challenges and struggles. And it's also about our ability to use our resource in order to cope with these situations. Actually, this is a key thing we need to remember. This is a key thing we need to keep in mind when we talk about resilience and community resilience in particular. So let's take a look at the classic definition. There is an amazing policy-making organization in this area, I mean in the emergency response area, including war. And they defined it as an ability of a system, of a community or society to resist, to absorb, to adapt, and to transform, and to recover after the implications of threatening situations. What do we mean by recovery? Recovery of the basic structures and programs existing at the individual community level to support specific people in recovery. Actually, the concept of community resilience is directly related, first of all, to strengthening the local capacity. So, local capacity building. I'm talking about the area where people live and work, because we want these people to be able to seek professional help and get access to services and programs, as well as other forms of assistance, in order to boost their recovery process. So, it's not just about the human ability of people to recover, but it's also about our ability to absorb the effect of these consequences. And how can we do it? First of all, we can do it through our available resources, our internal resources, our external resources, resources around us, our loved ones, and members of our community, people you work with. And in general meaning of this word, it also includes the policy, which provides for availability of such services and the policy in this area. So various researches in this area were conducted to identify the key factors of community resilience amidst the war. And these studies says that the most important dimensions are communications and interactions within communities and between communities. You've talked a lot about it today. Another very important thing mentioned today is trauma-informed or trauma-sensitive approach, especially in terms of support system building. So it's super important to know and understand it, and it's true for everyone without exception. It's true for every member of the community. And it's also important to ensure availability and access to support resources. Access is, is the first thing that disappears in the emergency crisis concept when the war starts or any other life-threatening emergency onsets. It's also very important to coordinate the efforts of all stakeholders in this area. Then it's development and implementation of specific plans and programs. But there is no plan you can develop in advance. All plans need to be adjusted. You've talked a lot about it. Every community, small, large, medium, will always have some specific plan or program depending on the needs of your community. depending on how many resources are available. It's normal. Another important thing is training, because we need to develop skills and build capacities of the capacity members. If we get back to our circle of emergency response, you will see. You will see it. So we have this amazing circle, which is about prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. And each community must pass all the four stages. Just remember year 2014, then remember year 2016, 2017, then year 2022, and and who we are now in 2024. We had some experience and we learned some lessons. Our poor experience teaches us so a lesson, and we need to learn from these takeaways from our success and failure. However, we should not be afraid of our failure. We should discuss them, share them, and continue our learning journey. Actually, mental health, well, what does it mean for resilience of a specific community? Here we talk about every person living in a community, and every person is valuable. Because if I live in a community, if I am a member of it, it means that I share its with the values of this community, and I also contribute our own resource to general pool in order to develop this community. But when I feel bad, when my life is changing, when I'm dealing with some challenging circumstances, when I return from war, I know that I can seek support from my community, and I know that I can bring benefit, I can bring use. So it's about giving and it's about taking. We often give away so much, but we're really afraid to take something even when we need it. So for individual resilience, family resilience, and organizational resilience, this area is of utmost importance. So we can compare community resilience with human immune system. If you invest in mental health, it's like taking vitamins to boost your immunity. You give vitamins and nutrients to your body to saturate your organism, your community. It means that eventually your community will recover much faster. Your community will bounce back to that conditional baseline. It's true for veterans, it's true for internally displaced people, it's true for family members of veterans who are waiting for them. The more support you give, the more these people will once give to you in various meanings of this word. And in general, this term, psychosocial support, you know, I once did a little research. I know that you probably heard about it. Basically, this definition was borrowed from humanitarian organizations working in the emergency context. And here in Ukraine, we contextualize it in this draft law on mental health, which has already passed the first reading. And it's about combination of mental health support and social support, because there is a great number of researches and practical case studies that demonstrates that resilience is a key to recovery. This combination is a key to success for every project and program you may plan. Moreover, some research indicates that in the war setting, this all-in-one approach is ultimately winning one. So what do I mean by it? When a person seeks help, the more services you can offer through a one single window at one single institution, the more the person will benefit from it, the greater will be your reach, and the more help you will be able to provide to the people in need. So this combination approach, when we combine mental health and social support, is crucial. And the strategies this described in our target strategy for mental health service environment development, and which is developed and actively promoted with our support by the Coordination Center for the Mental Health under the Cabinet Ministers of Ukraine. So if I get back to the start of this conversation about this change of paradigm. Not everyone is traumatized. Quite the opposite. We are resilient. We recover better. So actually, this resilience it can be inherited. There are some research on this topic. We inherit something from our parents and grandparents, but it's this quality also can be developed. We develop and shape it throughout our entire life. It means that our children and grandchildren will be extremely resilient because our today's experience really strengthens and boosts our resilience. So here you see some of the key principles defined by the United Nations, according to which in the emergency setting, in the war and armed conflict setting, when you need to provide efficient services to many people, and then as the development approach requires that those services and programs must stay in the community. So these four layers, they are a key in the situation. Basic essential services, family and community support, focused support, and finally specialized support. Specialized is somewhere on top. It's about psychiatrist, inpatient psychiatric care, and clinical psychologists who work in a hospital setting. Other three layers are to be done and implemented at the community level. All of you have decision-making powers and you carry great responsibility and you carry great work, great responsibility for building the resilience of your community and nearby community. Because if you don't have something, you always try to borrow it from your neighbor. So what does it mean? It means that you may actively build inter-regional cooperation, and this experience is evidence-based. It's efficient in various countries globally. It's especially true for regions exposed to similar things we're exposed to. So this pyramid is quite detailed. I will give you a reference to a source where you can read more about it. But there are some examples of programs to be implemented in each of these four levels. And this pyramid is a very illustrative demonstration. It's a specific tool to build resilience at the community level. And my final slide, it's basically a general summary. Today you mentioned many various programs, many various services. Well, I'm a graduate and right now I lead the oldest, the first school in Ukraine. It's called the School of Social Work, named after Professor Poltavets under the Kyiv Mogila Academy. And the school was the first to launch social work education and training in Ukraine. And I want to especially highlight that the social work in Ukraine is underestimated. It has been underestimated since the very beginning because people mostly talk about services. So if I ask you what are some of your associations with social work, you would probably say food kits or maybe a referral to employment center to get some social benefits. Actually, the sense and the understanding of social world in the work and what we have trained graduates for the last 30 years who now work at various ministries and develop policy and also as practitioners and as researchers. So social work in the community is a person you need in order to ensure proactive referral between the levels of this pyramid to map your services, to know what services are available in your community and what aren't, and what services you desperately need but you don't have enough resources to implement it. It means that you must ask help from a nearby neighboring community. So this is something we teach to social workers. They're probably the only country in the world where the resilience is offered as a service. No one offers a resilience building service. Please remember it. The Ministry of Social Policy has a very special approach where they fund services This is the reason why they call it this like this. But everyone is actually doing it in your areas. And when we talk about veterans, people with combat experience, they usually have even greater resilience and they can help you with building it because it's not a service. It's something that you, I, everyone does daily to survive. You all are building and strengthening the resilience of your communities. It's something you need to keep in mind. And veterans, people with battlefield experience, and their family members are a very powerful and useful resource for you, for your community's security, for building your community. And here on this slide, you see just a very small share of everything that can happen between it's a mix with several components. I saw some of you during the coordination meetings. We had these trainings in various regions of the country. I'm in training with the coordination center, including Miss Oksana Zbitneva and Miss Marina Makitchak, was has have facilitated throughout the year. So when we talk to decision makers at the community level, we always discuss the connection between the mental health and resilience and how to build this connection. We have a whole online course on it, and this course is divided into four 1.5 hour online micro sessions. I kindly invite you to look through the sessions, but it's not a service. It's something every one of us is doing on a daily basis for our communities, our organizations, and our families in a place where you live and work. It's something you do
Пані
for your country in
Оксано,
general.
дякую вам.
Miss Oksana, thank
Думку
you
про
so much.
ветеранів як про потужний
So,
ресурс
veterans are a
давайте
powerful
зафіксуємо. У нас
resource.
ще буде
I really
ветеранська
like this
панель, і
idea.
там
We're about
є
to
про
have
що
another
поговорити.
panel discussion
Будь
on
ласка, пані
veterans,
Ірино, я прошу
and
вас продовжити цю
but
розмову.
now I
Всі
will
активні
ask
з
Miss
нами
Irina to continue
залишаються,
these
але я була б вам
conversations.
вдячна, якби
I
ви
would
дали
highly
більше
appreciate that in addition to
прикладів
my
з наших
previous
інших
general
реалій.
questions,
Пані
you
Оксана
would share
згадала
some
про
case
роки.
studies from our Ukrainian relatives. Miss
Невдач,
Oksana
які
mentioned
відбулися. Як показує
lessons,
досвід, за
success and
невдачами ми
failures
можемо
we
стати
learn takeaways
кращими.
from.
Вона
Our
запам'ятовує.
experience shows that
Прошу,
failures are
що
better to
власне
learn a lesson.
вдалося і не
So,
вдалося, коли ви
what are some of your
займалися
successes and what are some of
життєстійкістю,
your failure
стійкістю громади?
in building
Як ви її
community
розумієте?
resistance
Як власне за
experience?
нею нам
How do you
вдається в
understand it?
наших
And
сьогоднішніх реаліях?
how do
Прошу.
we fight
Дуже
for
дякую,
it
пані
in
Анно.
our day environment?
Мене звуть Ірина
Thank you
Гладка.
so
Я
much,
член
Miss
громадської
Anna. My name is
організації
Irina
Союз
Gladka.
переселенців Мир на долоні.
I
З
lead the
2016
IDP
року
Union
офіційно, а
organization since
направду я переселенка сама з міста Донецьк. З
2016.
2014 року,
I
перемістившись в
moved
місто
from
Житомир.
Donetsk region to
Звісно,
Zhytomyr in
що починала
2014.
плекати стійкість
And
свою.
of course,
Хоч
back
таких
then I
людей
started to cherish
таких
my own
людей, які
resilience, people
приєднувалися до
like
нас.
me, then
І
people
звісно,
who
що
joined our
кожна людина
organization.
шукала в собі
And of
сили,
course, every
рецепти, як
person
ставати
was looking for
стійкішими,
some
сильнішими, щоб
recipes, for
долати
some
всі
strengths, how to
виклики,
be more
всі ті
resilient,
перепони,
how to be
перешкоди, які
stronger,
ставали на
how to deal
нашому
with these
шляху.
challenges and barriers
Звісно,
emerging
що
on
на той
our way.
час ми стикалися в 2014
Of course,
році.
back
Це
then
теж,
in
знаєте, такий виклик був
2014,
іншого,
and it was
скажімо,
quite a
формату.
different
Сьогодні це вже
challenge.
взагалі інші підходи, і
Today
я
we
дуже
needed a
вдячна
totally
також і
different
владі, і
approach.
всім тим,
And
хто в
actually, sincerely
22-му році
grateful to
більш свідомо
Vlada
вже
and to
реагував
everyone who
на
is
всі
now
ці
more
виклики, з
aware in
тим, з чим
2022 to
стикалися
report to
і
these
ветерани, і
challenges,
дружини ветеранів, і
challenges
внутрішньо
of
переміщені
veterans, of
особи.
veteran
Звісно, що на
spouses,
той
of
момент ми
IDPs.
були не дуже
But back
готові до
then we
цього, як і
weren't
і
really
я
ready to
особисто,
meet
як
this
і люди,
challenge.
які мене
And I
оточували в
personally, similar
громадах,
to people from my
стикалися з
environment, similar to people
стигматизацією.
from communities,
Звісно,
dealt
що
with
дискримінація,
stigmatization.
стигматизація,
Of course,
вона нас
discrimination,
переслідувала довгий тривалий
stigmatization
час,
has been
і
our
в
bane for a long period of time.
2022
And
році, на
finally, in
початку лютого, де я
2022, in
висловлювала
early
про те,
February,
що треба
I was
підтримувати,
given a
продовжувати
speech
внутрішньо
on the
переміщених
need
осіб,
to
почула
support
такий
to
момент, що
continue
ви
to support
знаєте,
of
це вже
IDPs.
тема
And
там вже не
someone says,
актуальна.
Look,
Ніхто
this
ще й не
topic is a
розумів,
bit
що буквально за 3
outdated.
тижні
No one could ever
почнеться
imagine that
повномасштабне вторгнення, і ця
just in
тема буде
3 weeks
настільки
the
актуальною
full-scale
і
imagine will start and
взагалі
this
вже буде
topic will
такого
be
масштабу, да,
extremely
коли
relevant.
потрібно не
It
тільки
will be of
внутрішньо
such a
переміщеним
large
особам
scale
допомагати в цьому
that you need to support
цивільному
not
суспільству,
just
яке
IDPs,
стикається з
but
викликами
the
війни
entire
на
civilian
території
society
України, а не
dealing with
тільки
the
в тих
war-related
регіонах, які
challenges
були
throughout
окуповані
Ukraine,
на той
not just
час.
in the
І звісно,
regions
що
occupied back
якраз
then.
посилилася ця робота.
And
І
of
я
course,
казала, що
we
дивіться,
intensified
ну
this
нам треба
work.
з цим
And I
робити щось,
remember
да?
I
Тим
said,
паче, що в
look,
нас
we
вже
need to do
точно є
something about it,
особистий досвід.
especially since we have a personal
Я
experience of
входжу із
such
нашу
events.
громадську організацію в
Right
координаційний
now,
центр
me and my
підтримки цивільного населення при
organization is
Житомирській
a part of
облдержадміністрації.
Zhytomyr Regional
Ну,
Administration Civilian
принагідно
Population
за
Support
підтримки
Center
координаційного центру
and with the
психічного
Coordination
здоров'я
Center for
Кабінету міністрів
Mental Health
України
under the
ми
Cabinet of
робили
Ministers of
оцінку
Ukraine.
потреб і
We did
аналіз
the need
всіх
assessment
анкетування
and
людей,
we
це
analyzed
внутрішньопереміщених осіб,
all the
також
responses
дружин
by
військових,
IDPs, by
ветеранів,
military
членів наших
wives,
громад, які
veterans,
потребують
members of our
підтримки
communities who
психологічної,
needed support,
психосоціальної.
psychological,
В нас було
psychosomatic
заповнено
support.
протягом тижня 15 тисяч таких
We have
анкет,
filled
і ми виявили
15,000
певні прогалини, з
questionnaires
якими
over a few
стикаються
weeks
у нас в
and we
громаді. Ви
identified some
знаєте, на
gaps people are
момент
dealing with
початку
at our
цього року,
communities.
наприкінці
So, when this
23-го,
year just
були
started in
виявлені
late
найбільш такі дві
2023,
прогалини. Це
we
недостатня
identified
увага
two most
жінкам
important gaps: the
внутрішньопереміщених і
lack of
родинам
attention
військових і
for
ветеранів. На
IDP,
той момент,
for female
розуміючи, що я знаю
IDPs and
точно, що робити
spouses of
з
veterans. So I know
внутрішньопереміщеними
for sure
жінками,
what to do
я
with
не
internal
знала
displaced
досконало,
women,
що робити
but I had
з
no
жінками,
idea what
з
to do
ветеранами, да, з родинами,
with
і
the
як їм
veteran family
приділяти більше
members,
увагу, а
how
тим
to pay
паче
my attention to
така
them.
промайнула ідея об'єднати
And
такі
moreover, I
жінок,
had an idea to
подолавши
bring these ladies
стигматизацію, тому що
together
в
to
опитуванні
overcome
було
stigmatization.
питання, чи готові
Stigmatization,
ви,
because in the
якщо
survey
ви
there was a
представляєте
question:
членів
are you
ветеранів
ready,
чи
if you
військових,
represent
об'єднатися
veterans
з
or military,
жінками-переселенками.
to
І
work
також було
together with
питання
IDP
навпаки.
women?
І ви
And I
знаєте,
had the
що
opposite question.
17%
And 17%
дружин військових зазначили, що
of
не
military
готові,
wives
що
mentioned that
це
they were
біль
not
їх
ready, said
відрізняється від
it's their
нашої
only
болі.
pain,
І
their pain
також
is different from
жінки
our pain,
внутрішньопереміщені
while
також
IDP women,
зазначили, їх було
the
20%, що також не готові, тому що в них
20%
є певні
also were not
острахи
willing because they had
зустрічатися
some
з дружинами
concerns
військових.
to
Така
meet with military
стигматизація, так,
wives.
вона існує, це невеликий відсоток, але в принципі, знаєте, 20 це
The
і
stigmatization
немало.
exists, it's a minor
На той
percentage,
момент якраз і
but still
виникла
20%
ідея
is quite a lot.
створити
And back
проект
then we
за
came up with the
підтримки
idea to create a
Житомирської
project
облдержадміністрації
supported by
Українського
Zhytomyr
жіночого фонду
Regional
«Правда», жінки,
Administration and
безпека,
Ukrainian Women
молодіжне
Peace as
13-25.
part of Women
Проект
Peace and
об'єднання
Security.
двох категорій жінок,
So we wanted
вразливих
to
на
bring
сьогоднішній
together
день, які
these two
постраждали від війни в
populations of
Україні. І
vulnerable women
спочатку з ними мають
affected by the
попрацювати
war in
психологи,
Ukraine.
в
First, they
подальшому
would
їх
work with
об'єднати за
psychologists, then we would
активностями і
bring them
івентами,
together,
які мають
invite them to
слугувати
join
для підтримки
activities
їх
and in
об'єднання,
events
ну,
with,
таке
with a
психологічне,
cohesion building
психосоціальне. І щоб
and,
вони об'єдналися,
and
проговорили за
MHPSS
цими івентами,
component.
що в них
We
болить,
just
і
want them,
вони
we wanted
починали
to bring
розуміти
them
біль
together as
інших
part of this
жінок.
event to discuss their
12
pain and better
психологів
understand the pain
працювали
of
з
other
цими
women.
двома категоріями жінок
12
окремо
psychologists were
протягом
involved
певного
in this
часу. Цей
project.
проект був
They worked with both of these
4
categories for a
місяці.
certain amount of
Повноцінно вони
time. This project
зустрічалися
lasted for
кожен
2 months,
тиждень,
for 4
4 рази на
months.
тиждень.
They had
Тобто
4
ж ми
meetings per
розуміли,
week,
що
every week.
50 жінок, 25
So we
жінок
knew
з
that
кожної
50
категорії
women
будуть
from each
зустрічатися
category
спочатку
would
на масштабі
first
рівний рівному. Тобто у нас були
meet on a
різні
peer-to-peer
методики,
basis.
інструменти
We
задіяні
used
в цьому
various
проєкті,
methods and
а в
tools as
подальшому у
part of
нас вже
this project.
починалися такі івенти
But
і активності, де
subsequently,
ці
we had
жінки
this kind of events and activities
спільно вже робили
where these
певні
ladies
заходи,
were doing
долучалися до
something
різних
together,
соціальних
were jointly
і
participating
починали
in events
приготуватися вже
facilitated by
болем інших.
professionals
Знаєте,
to
анкет
to
було
feel
дуже
the
багато.
pain of other
Відсіяні
people.
були деякі
We received
жінки,
a
або
lot of
стояли в
questionnaires.
плані резерву, тому що ми не могли
Uh,
відмовити. Ми
we
хотіли залучити всіх.
we
Нам з
wanted, of
організаторів
course, we
на
wanted to
початку прийшло
engage
більше, але хтось
everyone,
не
but
витримував такого
initially we had too
навантаження. Ми
high
робили
number of
3-4 рази в
participants, so some
тиждень
of them were waiting
на ці
standby. Some
заходи і
couldn't cope
психологів.
with intensity
І в
of 4
подальшому ми
sessions
дуже
per week,
переживали, що коли
and
ми
subsequently
об'єднаємо,
we
чи
were really
вдасться нам
concerned
взагалі цей експеримент в першому
about these
червні
experiments.
об'єднати
We
такі
didn't know
категорії
what
на
to
одному
do after
майданчику,
bringing
і
them
вони будуть
together.
зустрічатися
Would we be able to
щонайменше
bring
2
these
рази на
categories
тиждень.
together as part of this
Ризики
venue or
були, ми
not?
були готові
There
вже
was
з
some
огляду до
risks,
того, що якщо
but
щось
us and
експеримент
our
не вдався
donors
або
were willing to
частково,
respond.
ви знаєте,
We
все
were willing
вдалося.
to
Були
access
страхова
to accept
безпека
a
без
failure,
цього.
but failure never
Психологи
happened.
працювали з
Of course, there were
постійно
some
на всіх
frictions.
заходах, вони
Psychologists
завжди
constantly
тримали
followed up
форму
the
на пульсі
participants
всю
during
цю
every
ситуацію,
event.
яка
They were
складалася в
monitoring
тому,
the
що в
situation going.
активностях вони
because as part of these activities, after a certain period of work with psychologists, I guess for 2 months, I guess, they worked in the same team and then they returned with different women and everyone tells about on problems. They cried together, they talked about their concerns and about their experience of coping with these challenges. And afterwards, military wives approached us and said we could never imagine how painful it is. And for some reason, we invalidated the pain of women who lost their loved ones. Sometimes it's not just for military people; it's for civilians as well, and we need to take it into account. And similarly, IDP women also realized that they had to support women whose husbands are still fighting in trenches, injured or killed or kept as prisoners, as POWs. And by the end of the project, having after 16 different activities, they just mixed together. They had art therapy sessions, they had peer-to-peer sessions, they were making candles, they were making dolls, they took part in sports event, they used sport to boost their resilience at the same sports ground. They participated in cultural events, they went to theater, when we introduced them to a director and the people's artist of Ukraine who leads Kocherga Theater in Zhytomyr region, so Zhytomyr Dramatic Theater. And as a director's purpose as part of this project was to turn a story of ever living women into a scenario and set a play and of course they were deeply impressed by it, but they had 12 or 13 rehearsals, and during rehearsal A, they first played the scenario of the story till the end. They were crying aloud when they had to relive the story every day, but every time they also felt relief. So it took rehearsal sessions for them to feel relief. They could finish the play till the end live. Of course, subsequently, they also did photography. They were working with professional makeuppers. They had professional hairstyles. They took pictures in a photo studio. Some of them couldn't afford paying some attention, caring after themselves. Then I was approached by a wife of a military serviceman, and her daughter was also was also in the military fighting in this part of the country. So she approached me and she said my hair was of I used to have a terrible hair, and then I went to hairstylist, and she says, what kind of care product do you use because your hair is now much better?" And she says, "Oh no, I just participate in this project, and now I feel a will to live. I'm IDP from Kherson, from the occupied left bank part, and I'm also a spouse and mother of military. I know that I have 3 more children in Ukraine. I'm a new community when I don't have anything. And no humanitarian aid will improve my health." And then we look through her pictures. At the beginning of project, she was wearing all black. She was sad and really depressed. But when our project finished, she was smiling, and she even bought a brighter apparel. And uh, and everyone was just delighted. Other girls from the project gave her some brighter shirts, and it's just one of these 50 stories of resilience, the stories of coping and overcoming challenges, the stories of people overcoming their pain through coming together with other women. This project ended in spring, and up until now, these women support each other. They go to peaceful protests to support IDPs and to support POW wives together. They do charitable campaigns. They raised funding to support their military spouses and support women whose spouse was killed in action. They come to us. There is a social venue in Zhytomyr they can use the platform. They call themselves Graduates 1.0, and they want this project to continue. They want more projects like this, and they want other women like this to also understand that life move on. You must not stop, but you must believe in yourself and care after yourself. So we're talking about resilience and we're talking about women's strengths because today we have to carry a great deal of responsibility. And as Eleanor Roosevelt once says, if you want to learn how strong women are, just put a bag of tea into boiling water. So when we come together, we become just like the tea.
Пані Ірино, спасибі вам велике.
Thank you so much,
А
Miss
от
Irina.
насправді дивні думки спали мені,
Actually, I'm
коли
just thinking
ви
about some strange
розповідали. Я
things.
ще могла
So while
зрозуміти,
we're
як в
talking,
2014 році для
I
когось
know
війна була, для
that
кого не
in
була. Десь там на
2014,
сході далеко.
so the
Але от те,
war was
що ми зараз
something
ділимо
distant,
війну
someone in
на
the east.
твою,
But
мою,
now
твоя
someone says
більше,
this war
ні
is
моя
yours,
більше,
this
я
war is
більше.
mine, my pain is more, your
Сідала
pain is
насправді,
less.
я не розуміла.
I don't
Пані
understand
Ольга, я
how
хотіла
can we
просити
measure
вас
this grip.
пояснити цей
Miss
феномен.
Olga,
Що з
could you
нами
please
відбувається?
explain this
Як
phenomenon to
ми
me? What
змінюємося
happens
на
to us?
індивідуальному
How do we
рівні,
change at the
проживаючи ці
individual
виклики?
level after
І
we
як
actually
з іншого
experience
боку,
these
на
challenges?
індивідуальному рівні, на
And
рівні
what
особистості,
can be done at
ми маємо
individual, at
дбати і
personal
формувати свою
level in
стійкість.
order to foster and build our
Дякую, пані
resilience?
Олено,
Прошу
за
вас.
Thank you so much.
питання. Я тільки зараз на сцені дізналася, що пані
So,
Ірина в
I've just
2014
learned
році
that back in
поїхала з Донецька.
2014,
Це
Miss,
моя також особиста
my
історія.
colleague moved from Donetsk. It's very similar to
Коли
my own
тоді в
personal
нашому житті
story.
сталася
So back then,
ситуація, в 22-му році ми знали, що буває
when it
війна.
happened, in
А в
2022, we
2014
knew
році
what a
це
war was.
неможливо було
But
собі
in
уявити.
2014, it was
І коли
something
це сталося,
unimaginable.
світ
And when
перевернувся,
it
і
happened,
треба
my
було зрозуміти,
world
як далі
collapsed.
рухатися.
I was
І
confused. I didn't know what to do next.
особистість, як пані Оксана сказала, ми
And as
народжуємося з
Miss
певною
Oksana
частиною
says, we are
цієї
born with certain
резильєнтності,
with
психологічної
some share of
стійкості,
resilience, of psychological
але
resilience.
формується або доформовується вона у
But
нас, на жаль, не в
we
гарних наших життєвих
continue
умовах.
to
А
but
тоді, коли ми
we
переживаємо
don't develop it
найскладніші моменти нашого
during
життя.
nice and calm
І
setting. We develop it when we deal with the
зараз
worst
насправді є
challenges
дуже
of our life.
багато наукових
In our
досліджень,
life,
і
today there are
багато
quite a few
знаємо,
scientific
з чого саме
researchers.
складається
We know a lot
резильєнтність,
about
ця
resilience.
стійкість,
We know a
психологічна
lot
особистість.
about this
І
psychological
я думаю,
strengths.
що якщо кожен з нас знає ці складові,
And
ми
if
маємо
everyone knows
можливість
these
повпливати
components,
на них, і
it
відповідно
means that we can
ті
affect these
навичі, які ми
factors
набуваємо,
and
можуть
we
бути з
can
нами далі все
develop
життя.
new
Тому що, на жаль,
skills
ніхто
we
з
will
нас
carry on
не
into
може
our far
прожити своє
future
життя
life.
так, щоб в
Because,
ньому
of
не
course,
ставалися якісь складні
it's
речі.
impossible to live your life
Тому
without dealing with any
ми
challenges.
кожного разу робимо
So
вибір, як
every
нам
time
діяти в
we
тих
have to make a
найскладніших
choice.
різних
We choose
ситуаціях.
how to act
І
in various
оцей вибір
challenging life
стійкості,
situations.
він
And this
передбачає, що якщо
resilient
ми
choice
впали, ми
means that if
будемо
we fall
вставати.
down,
Якщо
we have
втратили,
to
ми будемо намагатися
jump bounce
зберігати
back.
надію.
If we have lost
Якщо нам
something, we need
страшно, ми
to keep
будемо
at least
плекати в
hope.
собі
If
мужність
we're
для того, щоб
scared, we need
рухатися
to
далі.
foster courage to
І
move on.
є оці такі 5 ключових
And
складових,
there are
які дають можливість
five key
кожній людині
components which enable every individual
зміцнювати свою
to
стійкість. І перше, на
strengthen
чому все
our
базується,
resilience.
і що
And
є
the first very
одним з
basic
ключових цих
foundational
компонентів,
thing
це є цінності.
is our
Цінності
values,
людини. Ми
the human values.
розуміємо, якщо
We all
ми
understand
знаємо,
it.
заради чого,
If we know
заради
why
чого
we
ми
are doing
переживаємо
it, if
якісь
we know the answer to this
важкі ситуації
question,
в своєму житті, це
why do we
завжди дає нам
experience it?
сили.
It
І
gives us
коли в
strength.
2014 році ми приїхали з
Back in
Донецька,
2014,
просто
we moved
повністю
from
залишили там
Donetsk
все своє
region.
життя, чоловік мені тоді
We
сказав:
left our
ми
life,
не
my
жити
entire
не
life
будемо.
behind.
Ми
My
будемо
husband
жити в
said, we
Україні.
won't
І
live
нам
in
довелося почати все своє
DPR,
життя
we will live in
спочатку.
Ukraine. So we had to
Але
start
та
our life
думка,
from
що
the
ми робимо
scratch.
це заради
But
того,
this
щоб
idea
жити в
that we're
Україні,
doing
вона
it
була
in order to
ключовою,
stay in
яка
Ukraine
підтримувала
was a
нас
key
весь
thing
цей
for us,
час
something that
на цьому шляху.
supported us throughout this
Тому
entire
перше,
time.
що нам дуже треба звернутися до свого серця і
So
спитати
we need to
себе, що для
listen to
мене
our
зараз
heart and
найважливіше,
ask
заради
ourselves,
чого я
what's the
все
most
це
important thing
проходжу.
for me
І
now?
всі ми, хто
Why am
зараз
I
є в цій залі, всі, хто нас слухає, ті
why do I
люди, які є в
experience it?
Україні,
So as people
вони
as a whole,
мають
people
цю
listening
свою
us
внутрішню
online,
відповідь,
every
чому
person in
вони
Ukraine
зараз тут.
has our
Коли
own
йдеться
personal
про
answer.
громаду, ми
Why am I
також
here? And when we talk about communities,
заради чого і заради кого
we also know why
рухаємося далі.
and what for
У
we
нас
move
немає
on, we have to move
іншого,
on.
іншої
We
можливості, іншого
don't have
виходу,
any
ніж
other
встояти,
choice, we
пройти
don't
це
have
все
any
і
other
зберегти
option
нашу
but to
країну.
withstand, survive, prevail,
Друга
and save
важлива
our country.
складова
Another very
це
important
дії.
component of resilience
Корисні
is
ефективні
action,
дії. І я сьогодні
useful,
так
efficient action.
послухала
I
всі
was so happy
виступи,
today when I was
розкази,
listening to previous
наскільки
speakers.
є чітке розуміння,
You know,
що
there is
коли
such a
ти
clear
робиш щось
understanding
корисне,
of this that
щось
when you're
корисне
doing
для своєї
something
громади, для своєї
useful for your
родини, для
community,
своєї
for your
країни,
family, or for your
і
country,
навпаки не витрачаєш час на
and
зайві
when you
речі.
avoid
Зараз дуже
spending
багато
time on
стикаємося з тим,
unnecessary
що багато
things,
людей кажуть,
you actually
вони
do
взагалі
better.
відмовляються
Many
робити
people
речі, в
say
яких вони
that
не бачать
they
сенсу. От тільки те, що
don't do
насправді є
anything
важливим. І
which is not
як
meaningful
колись
for them.
сказав
They
Ейнштейн,
do only
порівнюючи
meaningful
життя з
things,
ровером, що
and
якщо ти хочеш
Einstein once
дійти
compared life to
кудись
a
їхати,
rover.
тобі
If
треба
you want to
рухатися,
reach
тобі
some
потрібен баланс,
destination, you
і
need to
треба
move.
постійно
In
рухатися.
order to keep in
І тому
balance, you need
оці
to always
ефективні
be in a
дії, вони
movement.
є
So
надзвичайно
these
важливими.
efficient actions are very
Третя
important.
складова це є наші
The third
думки.
component is
Бо
our
наші думки
cognition, our
визначають
thoughts,
те, як ми будемо
because our
діяти. І
thoughts
якщо в
define
нас є
our
думка,
actions.
що в мене не вийде,
If
я
I think
провалююся,
that
це
I'm weak,
кінець,
that
вже
I'm
нічого ніколи
failed,
не буде,
it's
ця
over,
думка не дасть нам
nothing will
сили
happen, nothing,
і
it
так
will
далі.
never change,
І
this thought
тому
will prevent me
це
from
наше, ми
moving on.
говоримо про позитивне
I'm not
мислення,
talking
тому що
about
ця
positive
ідея, що все
thinking
буде
here,
добре, вона не є
because this idea of
реалістичною
everything
в
will
тих
be all
умовах, в
right
яких
is
ми
not
є, а
realistic
саме
in the
реалістичне,
setting we live in.
реалістичне
But I'm
мислення
talking
є
about realistic
чим складніша
thinking.
ситуація, тим
And the more challenging the
менша
situation
кількість
is,
цих допоміжних думок, і вони
the
є
less
коротші,
auxiliary
але
thoughts
дуже
you need.
дуже
Your thoughts are
важливі.
shorter, but
І
still very
одна з них,
important.
наприклад, може бути, що ми пройдемо наш шлях. Це є думка,
For
яка є
example,
народжується в голові
will
людини.
we cope with this journey? It's
Четверте,
something a person may think.
пані Оксана
Then
сьогодні про
another
неї
important
також
component,
детально
where
вже
it was
говорила.
mentioned today
Це
in
є
detail by Ms. Oksana,
уміння плекати
it's our
ресурсний емоційний
ability
стан,
to
коли ми
foster
знаємо,
resourceful
що зробити
emotional
для того,
states.
щоб
When we
підтримати
know what
свій
to do in
емоційний
order
стан,
to support
підтримати свій
ourselves
рівень енергії,
emotionally, to
регулювати
support
свою
our energy
енергію.
level, to regulate our
Звісно,
energy.
що всі ці компоненти
Of
взаємопов'язані.
course, all
Якщо
these
взяти
components are closely
попередній
interrelated.
пункт про думки,
Just
і
take
людина,
a look
наприклад,
at
має
the
думку, що я не
previous
маю права
component
зараз
of
радіти,
thoughts.
що
Someone
я не
thinks,
маю права
I must
відпочивати,
not
я не
feel
маю
happy,
права
I
робити
must
якісь
not
речі, які
rest,
мені не подобаються.
I
І це
shouldn't
призводить до
do the
того,
things that I
що
like.
якщо
So what
просто
and
на фізичному рівні, якщо
what it
людина
leads to?
витрачає всю свою
If
енергію
a
і більше
person
нікуди
is
не
totally
поповнює,
exhausted
то в
at the
кінці
physical
кінців ми
level
приходимо
and
до того,
doesn't
що людина
recharge
не
this
має
battery,
ніякої енергії.
eventually
А
they
якщо
won't
ми не
have
маємо
any
енергії,
energy,
ми не
any energy
можемо
left at all.
рухатися,
And
ми
if
не
we have
можемо
no
нічого
energy,
робити. І
we
це
cannot move on, we
очевидно,
cannot
що
do
кожну окрему
anything,
особистість призводить до
and
того, що вона втрачає
eventually
той потенціал
individuals lose
впоратися
their
із
potential
складними
and capacity
ситуаціями.
to deal with challenging life circumstances.
Регуляція емоцій в тій
Emotional
частині,
regulation
звичайно, також є важлива, тому
is
що
also
емоції
very
наші
important here because
є
our
такими
emotions
показниками того, що з
are
нами
the marker
відбувається, і
of
коли
what's
вони
going on to us.
є, ми добре їх розуміємо і
And
регулюємо,
when we know and when we can
це
understand and regulate
дуже
our
позитивно
emotions,
впливає на наше
it has a very
функціонування. А
positive
якщо
impact on our
вони є
functioning.
надмірні,
But if
то
our emotions
це
are excessive, are too
погіршує
much,
емоційний стан.
it
І
will
якщо ми
further
говоримо
have a
про
further negative effect on our
там
emotional conditions.
дуже високий рівень тривоги чи дуже високий
So
рівень
to
пригнічення
a high
стресу
level of anxiety or
або
a high level
надмірної
of
злості, це
depression
є речі,
or
які
excessive
швидше
anger
руйнують, ніж
are the
допомагають нам
things that
рухатися
rather
далі.
destroys and
І
help us to move
п'ята
on.
важлива складова,
And there's a
щоб
five a very
підсумувати,
important component just to summarize it.
уміння будувати стосунки.
It's ability to build
Стосунки – це
relations.
найважливіше те, що
Relationships.
дозволить нам
Relationships is something the
пройти
most
будь-які
important.
випробування.
Something will let us to
14
cope with
року
any
нас
challenges.
запитали, можете
Back in
довести мені
2014, we
фразу і
quickly
сказати,
asked
що ви
people,
думаєте
could
найважливіше,
you
що
please, what's the
допомогло
most
вам
important
впоратися?
thing that helped you to cope
І
with it?
моя
Just in one
відповідь –
sentence.
бережіть стосунки.
And I
Стосунки – це
responded,
щось, в що
uh,
треба
value
втрачати,
your
витрачати
relationships.
свої сили,
The
вкладати свій
relationships
час,
takes effort.
постійно
Relationships take
цінувати,
time. You
постійно
need to
думати
always
про
be
те,
diligent. You
як
need to always
свої
think about them.
стосунки робити більш
How are my
міцнішими.
relationships?
Це
How can I make them
стосунки
stronger?
в парі, це стосунки
Say
в
it's a
родині,
couple
це стосунки в
relationships,
громаді, це
family
стосунки в
relationships,
колективі,
community
в
relationships,
культурному
relationships within a team in a very broad meaning, because people who surround us greatly affect our ability to cope with our ongoing challenges. So let me just briefly summarize that a values, efficient actions, useful thinking, a possibility to regulate our energy and replenish our energy, as well as building relationships, are the most important things everyone can do even now. So let us maybe think for a few minutes. So do we have enough of it in our life, of what we can work on in order to strengthen our own resilience? Because today we have talked a lot about vulnerable populations, but actually every person in Ukraine now must first of all take care after ourselves. We all need to build our resilience because this journey is long, our journey is difficult. So let us walk together for this most desired moment of Ukrainian
Пані
victory.
Ольго Ярмолюк
Thank
Сергієнко.
you, Miss
Дякую. Спасибі вам
Olga.
величезне. І пані
And
Олено, хотіла
now, Miss
попросити вас
Olena,
приєднатися.
my
У мене
next question is for you. So I have a
Вас
question.
навчали цим речам як
Have you been ever
фахівця?
trained
Скажіть, будь
on
ласка,
these
який
things as a professional?
досвід,
What kind of
які
training, what kind
потрібні
of experience,
знання,
what kind
інформація
of
для
knowledge and
того, аби бути
expertise do you
висококваліфікованою
need in
навчальною
order to be a
тренеркою?
high
Що,
qualified
власне, для цього
training
потрібно?
instructor?
Яку
What do you
інформацію
need for
ви
it?
надаєте
What
людям?
kind of information do you
Які
share with
практики,
people?
можливо,
What are
ви
some of your
використовуєте?
practices you use,
Тренінги, форми? Будь
trainings,
ласка, з
formats?
вашого досвіду.
So, if you don't mind,
Як ця стійкість
how
формується
does
цими
resilience is
буквально вашими
usually
руками?
developed? How do you
Дякую за
sometimes
запитання.
shape it
Вітаю
with
всіх.
your own
І
bare
на свою
hands?
відповідь я хочу
Thank you
почати
so
з
much for your
попросити вас
questions.
трошечки
And to
довіри.
start
І
with,
зараз
I
ще
will
встане,
ask you
хто
to
може
trust
встати.
me.
Всі,
And
хто
if
в
you
цьому
can,
залі,
please stand
хто на
up.
панелі, ті, хто нас дивиться,
Everyone,
слухає. Але
everyone,
стати
people
так, щоб вам
online,
було
people
комфортно, ви мали
offline,
точку опори.
just
Це або
stand up
ножки
so you
розставити на
feel
ширині плечей, або
comfortable
ногу
and
поставити
your legs
вперед,
are
спертися
properly
на стільчик.
supported.
Ви так довго
You
сиділи,
can,
ваше тіло
because
так
you've been
багато
sitting
отримало,
for
давайте
long,
трошки його порухаємо вліво-вправо,
you let's move
бережно.
our body a
Пам'ятаємо,
little
що не
bit
треба
left,
колінцями
right, very
спати, нормально
carefully.
легенькі.
Make
Трошки
sure your
вперед-назад,
knees are
рухаємося по
soft. You
природніх
can
осях
lean
осей. Да?
forwards, lean
Тобто
backwards. We just
вгору-вниз,
follow our natural
вверх-вперед,
axis. Stand
донизу,
up, stand down, reach
видихнути.
up, reach
Зараз попрошу вас
down.
зробити
Inhale,
комфортно вдих
exhale.
носиком, але плечі
Now
підняти
inhale
максимально
comfortably
високо.
with your nose, but
І
raise your
видихати,
shoulders as
потягнутись до
high as
ліктів.
possible.
Вони не
And
відпадуть.
then
Тут точно
exhale through your
витримується все
mouth
твоє
and
життя,
drop
це
your
разом.
shoulders. Don't worry, your hands won't fall off.
А тепер помаститися. Дуже так зручно, гарненько
And now sit
помаститися.
as comfortable
На бік,
as
збоку на
possible.
бік, да,
Find
тобто
the most
прям, не
comfortable
знаю,
position
відчути,
for
як ви
yourself.
ногами стоїте,
Just
да,
feel
тобто можна теж
how
дуже
your
бережно
feet
на
touch the
носочки,
ground
на
really
п'яточки,
carefully
да,
with
можна
your
прям
toes,
витягнутися,
with
потягнутися. Дивіться, я
your
теж роблю,
uh,
теж видима.
you
Да?
can see me doing
Ще
the
так
same
спробувати, ніби
thing.
попа приклеєна до стільця, а
With
ваші
your heel.
плечі і маківка
Just
тягнеться догори.
imagine that
Спробуйте, все
you
дуже-дуже
tight
бережно.
that you
І
glued to a
подякуйте собі. Ви
chair
так
and
багато, навіть попри
please try
включеність, ви
to raise
сьогодні
your
так
hand to
багато
reach
слухали,
upwards.
так
You've been
багато
listening so much. You
пропрацювали.
have had
І
so
з
much
чимось ви
information. You've did
погоджувались. І
so
давайте
much work.
покажемося один одному, так
Just
дуже
let's
поважно
let
зробимо.
us show it to each
Так,
other. Yes, I
так,
agree with you.
так. З чимось
And
ми не
yeah,
погоджувались, це є
let's
окей,
note
правда? І ми кажемо
something you disagreed with. So let
ні,
us
ні.
shake our hand.
І ми
No,
вже знаємо,
no.
що ще скільки багато
And
роботи
we know
попереду. І
that
ми
we
тоді
still
кажемо
have so much work to do.
ой-ой-ой. А тепер спокійно собі вдих, комфортний
And
видих.
now inhale,
Можна навіть трошки
exhale, breathe
порухатися,
in,
так,
breathe out.
змоститися
You
ще
can
раз.
tap on your
І ми
chest.
трошечки закtivізували нервову
And
систему.
you see, we have
Це якраз дякую
activated
вам
our
частинку
nervous
питання
system
вам
a
да,
little
про
bit.
практики, бо це
Actually, thank you
важливо.
much about asking me about my
Хочу почати
practices
ще з такої
because this part is
вдячності.
very important. And I
Насправді
also
дуже
want to
теплоти
start
до
with a
всіх, хто
few words of
зібрався, приділив свій
appreciation.
час. Да,
I
нам
feel
посеред
really
такого
warm
життя
and
і
support
виклику, де
and
дуже
grateful
багато,
to
і що в
everyone.
онлайні, що
Our
вживу.
life is very
І в мене
fast-paced.
є
We have
багато,
so
я
many
це
challenges,
підраховую багато
but you're
хто
still
задедикував
here.
про mental health.
And
Ну,
I'm
насправді багато
really
хто.
appreciate
І
pro
багато
mental
такої
health
любові і
team.
гордості, що
I
вони
feel
вибрали
love,
рівник
loving and
першої да,
proud
пілотної
for
арівниці на змаганнях.
I'm grateful for them for choosing
Тому
Rivne
я
region
прошу
as for their first
аплодисментів
pilot
не
project,
тільки
and the
нам, як
Rivne
частині
region
рівненщини,
succeeded.
да,
So please, a loud round of
та я й
applause,
прошу всім
not
тим
just for
світовій
us as
частині
representatives
України,
of
яка
Rivne
нас слухає,
region,
дивиться,
but
і
for entire
області, яка да,
Ukraine,
теж
people who are
включається, і
watching
інші
us,
теж
people
десь
who
дивляться, а
listen
ми
to
теж
us,
хочемо.
other regions who join in or other regions who are watching us and think, oh, we want something like this as well. Last year I made this team. It happened accidentally, but I really loved the consistent, systematic approach and for to service provision, because when we say that we provide some services, we say like we have explored everything, we know everything, we know what's missing, and we have an idea of how it can be done.
Але
What can
я
we
ще
try to do?
відгукнулася на підхід, який є діалог в цій команді. Ну, справді є величезний
But I
діалог,
also
тому
love the
що
dialogue
ті самі,
in
до
this
прикладу,
team,
супервізії, вони народилися в процесі
because
навчання фахівців.
this supervisions, they
І
emerged
тут
in the
величезна
training
моя
process,
персональна вдячність, да,
and
власне,
I'm personally,
команді
sincerely
фонду,
grateful
командам центру,
to
які якраз
the
про це
fund
говорили.
team
Да,
and to
тобто
the
це так,
center
прям,
teams
Правда.
да, правда.
who talked a lot
І
about
це
it.
про таку дуже динамічність. Да,
It's
насправді
about
це про живе.
dynamics.
Це про ту
It's about
історію, коли
living
ми чуємо
experience.
наших
It's a
клієнтів.
story when we
Бо
listen to
психологи
our
це
clients.
люди такої професії,
Psychologists are
вони не знають
people
відповіді на питання насправді.
who don't
Да?
know
Тобто,
the
але точно
answers,
вони вчаться на моменті своєї
but
підготовки шукати ці
but as
відповіді.
part of
Вони
the
вчаться бути
training,
настільки
they
гостро,
are trained
відвертими
to
самі з
look for these
собою,
answers.
задавати дуже
They are
непрості,
trained
такі
to be
болючі
honest and
питання і
sincere with
знайти відповіді.
themselves, to
І ми
ask painful
навчаємося цьому як
questions
психологи,
and find
психотерапевти саме для
to ask
того, щоб
painful
ми знали,
questions
а
and
як
find
це,
answers to
коли
them.
хтось сидить навпроти.
So we
Це
are
щоб
trained
позбавитися
to
пихи,
know
гордості,
how
да?
does it feel
Тобто
like when
для
there's a
того, щоб
person
мати
in front of
можливість
you.
мати нульові вуха, нульові очі, коли
We
нас
must
слухає
have,
клієнт. Бо
we must listen
принцип
to
не
what our
не нашкодить.
client is
Але
saying.
те, що ми
Our
завжди
key
тримаємо в
principle
голові,
is
мій
do not
клієнт, який
harm.
дійшов до мене, він вижив.
But
І він
we
навіть,
always
якщо
say
він дійшов до
ourselves,
мене,
if
він
my
вижив без
client is
мене.
in this chair,
І
it
до
means
мене
that
він
they
прийшов
have
тільки
survived
тому,
and
що
they
вже в
will
ньому
survive without
включився
me.
режим
And this
життя,
person is
не
here
просто
because
виживання. І
he
він
or she
хоче це
wants
життя
to
щось
live, not just
визначитись.
survive,
Да?
and
Тобто,
they want to
або
improve their
десь
quality of life.
сумнівається, або ще
Maybe they
якась
have some
історія.
doubts,
Да?
maybe
І
they
ми
have some
говоримо, що
concerns, but
психологи,
this is actually the
психотерапевти в
reason
своїй
why they're
професії,
here.
де працюють із
Psychologists and
більшими буває викликами. Це можуть
psychotherapists
бути ті самі
deal with
психічні
many various
розлади. Чи
challenges,
є я
including
в
mental
зоні
health
ризику отримати якісь
disorders.
психічні розлади?
Do I have a
Да?
risk
Тобто
of
я
developing
людина
a mental
дуже
health
життєва, я
condition? Of
живу
course
життя.
I
Ну
am.
що це
First
таке?
of all, I'm a
Ми
human
говоримо про
being.
депресивний розлад, да? Ми говоримо про
Sometimes it's depression,
післявпологову депресію, ми
sometimes it's
говоримо про якийсь
postpartum
невротичний спектр,
depression,
тривожні
sometimes
розлади.
this is
І
somneurotic
сучасні
conditions,
реалії, вони
anxiety
звичайно нам в цьому дуже
disorders.
допомагають. Правда?
And of course,
І
our current
коли я
environment
отримала запрошення
makes
виступити
us
з такою,
very vulnerable to it.
знову ж таки,
When I was
багато
invited
тепла і
to
дуже
speak at
багато
this
любові,
conference,
тому що це
I
про
felt
голоса.
really loving
Кожне з
and
нас,
proud
кожен з нас,
because
хто
it's
сьогодні
about
говорив,
voices.
буде
Everyone
говорити,
talking here today,
обговорював на
everyone who
каві,
will
десь
talk here
писав
today
один
during
одному, да,
coffee
там, не
breaks
знаю, там,
and
під час
in our personal
обідів. Це
correspondence
про
during
голоса.
lunch break
Це так
had
важливо
discussion. It's about voice.
знати,
It's about
що
hearing
ми
each other's
хтось
voices.
там, да, з
It's very
14
important to
року, ще
know
раніше, з
that
22 року, ми
since
звучимо голосами.
2014, since
І в 22-му
2022,
році моя
our voices
супервізор
have been
сказала мені:
heard.
Олена,
In 2022,
пройде
my
кілька
supervisor
років,
said,
ми будемо вас чекати,
after
ваших
several
колег, хтось нас
years,
навчали. Я думала, про що
you
вона
and your
каже?
colleagues would train
Яке
us.
навчати?
I
Мені, бо я
couldn't
тут
imagine
розбиратися,
what
да, з
she
тим,
was
що
talking
відбувається.
about. What do you
На
mean teaching
сьогоднішній день я
us?
розумію,
I
про що
couldn't
це.
handle with what I had on
Тому
my
що
plate.
наші реалії,
Now
вони
I understand
фундаментальні.
what she was talking
Зазвичай,
about. We have
здебільшого,
unprecedented
терапевти,
situation in our
травматерапевти
country.
це ті
Most
фахівці,
often
які
therapists and
приймали, да,
traumatherapists
тобто туди люди
are
переїжджали в
people
країну, яка безпечніша, або вони
from hosting
виїжджали в різні міста
communities.
конфліктів, воєн, військ.
They traveled
Ми живемо в
to war
реаліях, да, і
zones
тому такі
to
проекти,
support
як про
people, but
Mental
we
Health,
live in a
проекти
war-torn
життєстійкості,
country
ми сьогодні
ourselves,
говорили,
so
я
this
так само є
resilience and mental
фахівчиня
health
Центру
project are
життєстійкості,
incredible.
одна з
I'm a
причин, чому
resilience
навчатися
center
терапії.
professionals, and
Це
one of the
моя
reasons why I
частина
joined in is
ідентичності,
systematic
і це
approach.
моє
It's a part of
розуміння, на
my
що я
identity,
спираюся.
and
І
it's my
коли ми звучимо
understanding of
про
what can
стійкість,
I
ми багато
rely on. So when
говорили
we
про
talk
те, що
about
нам
resilience,
треба робити, це
we talk a
важливо.
lot
Це
about what we
справді
need
треба
to do
важливо.
about the importance
Але
of doing it.
скільки разів ви
Yes,
себе
it's truly
питаєте, чи
important
питаєте
indeed.
ще досі, чи
But how do you
спроможні ви?
often ask yourself about your
Чи
capacities?
дозволяєте
Am
собі
I capable
зізнатися,
to
що
do
ви
it?
втомилися?
Do you let yourself to
Чи
confess that you're
дозволяєте ви
tired?
собі взяти
Do you
невеличку
allow
паузу на
yourself to
хвильку, на
take a small
капусічку,
break
да? І
just for a
подивитися,
minute
а хто є збоку,
and take a look?
хто вже це
Who's
теж
here
робить,
next to me?
втомився
Do I have
менше,
other people
сперся
doing
на
the
нього.
same
Да?
things?
Сьогодні звучало
People who are less
з
exhausted,
цієї
people
сцени
whom I have
такі
rely
теж
on.
хороша річ, як на мене, про конкуренцію.
Someone said a
Да?
wonderful
Тому
thing
що
today about
якщо ми говоримо про такі
competition.
освітні проекти,
Because if
і
we talk
це
about
справді
educational
великий виклик
projects
перед
like
будь-якою
this,
командою, які
it's
би правильно
indeed a
реалізовувалися,
great
да? Тобто,
challenge.
і це нема значення насправді насправді чи
doesn't
це
matter.
нема принципової відмінності,
Well, it
правильніше
doesn't
сказати, чи
really
це
matter
комунальні заклади, чи це
if it's
державні
a
установи,
public
чи це
institution, a
проекти
governmental
за донорські
institution,
кошти, бо
or
відповідальність
donor-funded
скрізь велика.
project,
Скрізь велика.
because the
Це
responsibility
про
everywhere
збереження
is
цієї
really
громади.
great. It's about
те, що
preserving
коли
your
ми
teams.
вкладаємо в фахівців, чи
It
будуть ці
means that
фахівці з нами.
when we invest
Але
in
це є
professionals,
розуміння
those
ризику, що
professionals
якийсь
stay
фахівець
with
може
us.
піти, йому
But
можуть не підійти
understanding
умови,
these risks that
але
someone
він
may leave
залишиться
the
в
team
громаді, і він буде далі
don't matter because
працювати.
this person will still
Тобто,
stay in the
якщо
community
ми
and they will
повертаємося до
continue to
викликів
work on.
освіти, то на
So if
сьогоднішній
we get
день
back to educational challenges,
є в нас психологи.
well,
Є
today we have
психологи,
psychologists.
психотерапевти, і я погоджуюся, в нас немає і логічно їх немає звідки
We
взяти
have
на кожного
therapists.
персонально. Тобто там
Of course,
умовно,
we don't
не
have a
знаю,
personal
багато
therapist
районів,
for
і
everyone
там ми поділилися
because
на
we are a country with a million of
половинку це
populations. We cannot
клієнти,
split in
половинку
half.
таких немає.
We are half
Бо я
our
тоді
clients and
запитаю,
half
а
our
хто буде
therapists.
психологом для психолога?
Because otherwise, who's
Правда?
going to be a
Ну, як
therapist for
мінімум.
therapist?
І перед нами стоять виклики. В нас
So we
уже
have some challenges.
тобто, третій рік повномасштабна війна.
The
Тобто
full-scale
не
war has been
перший рік
lasted for over 3
в
years.
нас іде боротьба за незалежність,
So
за
we have been
цінності,
fighting
за
for our
ідентичність,
independence, for our
за
values,
таку
for our identities,
самостійкість.
for this
І в нас
resilience for
досі
many
вузи
years.
мають як
And
виклик
our
зміну програм
universities
навчальних. При
still
всій повазі,
still
і я
perceive
бачу
change of
зміни. Є
curriculum
вузи,
is
міняють
as a
програму навіть
challenge.
підготовки
I see
фахівців,
some schools that
починають
change their
залучатися
curriculums and training
практики з поля.
plans.
Тобто
They engage
хтось має бути
practitioners from
науковцем,
field.
хтось має
Someone's
мислити
supposed to be
потужно, хтось
researchers.
має
Someone
аналізувати,
has
систематизувати,
to implement this
але хтось
powerful
має показати,
thinking,
як працює в
systematize it,
практиці.
but someone
Дивіться, ми
has
з
to
вами
explain
робили
how it
маленький
works in
експеримент.
practice.
Він
We did a
насправді
very
робив тільки
small
повернути до
experiment.
себе. Він
It
був
was
це експеримент
wasn't
по
just about
довірі в
self-care.
суспільстві відгукнутися на те, що пропонують психологи.
It
І
was
ви
about trust
відгукнулися.
in your
І
society.
це не про те,
Would you
яка я
accept what
хороша.
psychologists
Ні.
suggest?
Тобто не
You
можу мені
accepted it.
симпатизувати
It's
весь
not
зал, але це
about me.
природньо.
It's not about me
Як би
being
я того не
likable.
хотіла. Але це про те, що ви так
It's
багато
about your
турбуючись про
attitude.
інших,
You care about
пам'ятаєте,
other
що
people
це
so
справді
much,
марафон, як
but you
казали
still
наші
remember
предки.
that it's
Ми
a
маємо дуже
marathon.
багато
It's a
турбуватися
long
про себе.
distance run,
Це
so we
видно
need a
ту
lot
саму
of
супервізійну
self-care.
систему на
It's
індексованих
about the
центрів життєстійкості.
supervision
Да, вона
system for
важлива,
resilience
але її
centers.
немає.
Yes, it's important, but we
Але
don't yet have
програма
it.
існує тільки рік.
But
Так?
this
Ну і
program has
вже
been
за рік
here
дуже
for only
багато
for 1
змін.
year, and we
І
have
тому
already
ця
achieved so
історія для
much
мене ще
progress
про те,
over
чому
these
тоді форуми
365
важливі,
days.
і чому
So these
важливо
forums,
там,
they are
тобто mental
also
health – це про
important.
здоров'я. Ну, по великому так.
Mental health is, first of all,
Пам'ятаємо,
it's
що
about
травма,
health, right?
перш за все, куди входить, вона входить в тіло.
First of all,
Будь-яка
trauma
травма,
lives in our
будь-який стрес,
body.
він входить в
Any
тіло.
trauma, any
Тому що ми
stress
тілом
lives in our
реагуємо,
body
або
because our
ховаємося,
body
або біжимо,
responds to it.
або обороняємося,
We
і
fight,
потім ми беремо час,
flight,
або якимсь чином
freeze
пришвидшено
response.
це робимо, але ми тоді вербалізуємо,
But
осмислюємо,
then we need to
обдумуємо, узагальнюємо.
verbalize, we need to
І
somehow
давайте чесно, я
process
зараз
this
задам питання.
trauma.
Хто
And let me
зранку,
be
ніби
honest.
гарно тиждень пройшов, дуже
Okay, so
напружений, а
you had a
просинався з
nice week,
відчуттям, що він
but
ніби
who of you
закам'янів.
woke up with a feeling as if you're made of
Ну,
stone, as if
принаймні
you're
був досвід,
frozen?
правда?
Maybe
То
it
що
happened
це?
at
Це
least
точно не
once in your
працювання в
life.
паспорті?
What does it mean? It's not
Ну, можливо,
about
але
the
не зовсім,
number in
правда?
your ID, it's
Це
not
про
about
те,
your
що ми
age.
дуже багато проживаємо.
It's
І через те
about this
для мене,
abundance of our
коли ми говоримо про
experience.
системну
So when
підтримку
we talk about
психічного
systematic
здоров'я,
mental health
фізичного
support,
здоров'я, і чому я
physical
дуже
health
щиро тішуся,
support,
що ті самі відділи
because I really
реабілітації
appreciate
фізичні
that this
з'являються,
physical,
тобто і
we have
посилюються
more
дуже
physical
багато.
rehabilitation
Це
center.
про те, що ми
It's all,
системно
it's
підтримуємося.
about
Це про
our
те,
the
що я
holistic
бачила і
approach.
досі бачу в цьому
It's
форумі.
something I've
Це про те,
witnessed
що
and
я бачу
continue
не
to
тільки
witness
в
as
цьому
part of the
проєкті,
project.
тобто,
And
і
this
це
is something I've
найважливіше.
witnessed as part of other
І
projects as well.
якщо дозволю
I'm really
задати ще
pleased to
тільки вже на
witness it.
частинку питання,
And let me
ви
add in
питали,
another
то що
point.
змінилося? Хтось
You
відгукнувся
once
10
asked me
років
what
назад, хтось
changed.
відгукнувся щойно.
Someone responded 10 years ago,
А
someone
важливо,
responded
хто
just now.
відгукнувся взагалі.
But it doesn't matter. The only
Отак.
thing that matters is that
І
you
комусь
responded at
знадобилося
all.
10 років,
Someone needed
15,
10 years,
20,
someone
40
needs
поколіннями.
15, someone may
А
need 40
комусь
years.
знадобилося
But for
менше
someone,
трошечки.
less
Тобто,
time is
але
enough.
важливо, що
But the
хтось
only
став
important
збоку
thing is
і
that there
хтось
is
став
someone,
пліч-опліч.
that
І
someone
справді.
stands next
І
to
те, що
you.
я бачу тенденцію, тобто
And
таких
now I
великих
see this
заходах
trend.
відвертих, це ще раз,
We
це
have
погоджено
such
про це
great and
говорити. Це
honest events.
задавати
We can talk
незручні
aloud
гострі
about it.
питання. Це
We can
висвітлювати
ask
важливі
uncomfortable
гострі
questions.
теми, які були
We can highlight
стигматизовані
important
дуже. Це
stigmatized
ділитися
topics.
досвідом і
We
рости в
can share our
височезному світу
experience
проєкті. Ну,
and we
насправді,
can
правда?
grow our competitors. Let's be
Психологи –
honest
це
once
дорого.
again.
Це дуже дорого.
Psychologists are
У мене
expensive, you know.
21 рік досвіду практичної
I
діяльності
have
психологічної.
21 years of
Філософічна
practical
освіта.
experience
Так
behind. I
сталося,
have
що мій перший
basic
клієнт
education.
мені
And
привели
actually,
в громадському секторі, коли
when
на п'ятому
back
курсі
then I
вчилася,
worked
да,
in
то мені
public sector,
лікар
they
попросила
brought me
поговорити з
first
жінкою, з
client,
якою
and the
привели на
doctor
третьому
asked me
місяці
to talk
завагар у
to
дитину
a
всередині.
woman who
І я
lost
перші
her
хвилин
baby
5 що
in
робила? Я
late
шукала
pregnancy.
двері,
What did I
ключі
do for the
багато.
first 5 minutes? I was
Бо в нас
constantly
про це не
looking at the
вчили.
door. They were never
І
trained.
тобто,
What
там
I
різні
was
є
never trained
тайми,
what to do.
і я досі
There are
горжуся собою,
various
що я не
aspects to it,
втекла.
but I'm still proud
Ну,
that
принаймні,
I
не
did not
втекла.
escape.
Да?
At
Тобто,
least I
і
didn't escape.
я не маю відповіді, чи я дуже допомогла цій жінці,
I don't know if
бо
I
там
was
в
really
питанні
helpful
було
for that
якраз про те, щоб
client
дозволити зробити
because
медичні якісь
it
процедури.
was about
Але я на все життя
getting her to give
запам'ятала,
consent
що
for
в
some
мене не
medical
було в кого
procedure.
спитати.
But I remember it very clearly. I had
І
no one
це не
to
є
ask this
погано. Може, я не
question to.
знала тих людей, в
It's
кого
not
можна
something bad.
спитати. І
Maybe
те,
I
що
just didn't
сьогодні я
use it
бачу, що
people.
вибудовується в
But the
системі
fact that
формальної
today
і
we're
неформальної
building
освіти,
building
тобто
this formal and
втілення
formal
досвіду
education
з'являється все
system, we
більше
have
осередків, де можна
which
спитати.
has more and more
І
of the
тоді ми можемо
platforms for
фантазувати
experience
про такі
sharing.
центри, які
It's
працюють
amazing. So then
власне
we
в
can imagine that
Рівнеській, в тому
centers
числі
like
в
this that
центрі
operate in
вашого
Rivne
проекту про Mental
regions
Health. І не
as
тільки
part of
вони можуть
mental
стати
health project,
прекрасними
they
базами
may become
практики.
an
В інститутах
amazing
нема баз практики.
practical
Ну,
venues.
тобто це відверто провалене
Universities
питання
is
з
only
різних
about
причин.
theories. They
Це
don't
вже
have practical
персональні люди,
training.
які працюють в конкретному
But some
інституті,
people
про
who
це
work at
подбали,
specific
правда? А системно
universities do
цього не
care
існує.
about it. We don't have
І
this
це теж історія,
special
що
system for it.
можна, але не з позиції, знаєте, що
Sometimes,
привели 30 студентів,
so it's not like you
посадили
bring
там
30
10 хлопців чи
students
10 дівчат, чи
and
ще
you
когось, і
ask
вони
10 guys
вчаться.
or 10
Це про
girls to sit and
збереження
look at you and study.
безпеки,
No, it's about
руйна шкоді,
safety.
дуже
It's
такого
about do not
турботливого
harm.
відношення і
It's
правильного,
about
якісного
caring and
професійного. Да?
compassionate
Тобто,
approach. It's about
і
high quality professional care.
якщо сказати про стійкість, то я би ще
So when
подивилася
we
на
talk
стійкість
about
як на системний
resilience,
елемент. Ми
I
єдина
think
система, мозок.
resilience
Ну, насправді, ми як мінімум мозок,
is
головний
about
складник знаходиться в
system.
тілі.
We
І
have
скільки б ми не
every
хотіли,
human
яку
being
би ми
is a
силу
system,
волі не мали,
mind and
яку ми
body.
витримку не мали, ми не
What,
зможемо це зробити, коли тіло не
whatever,
функціонує. Правда?
and
Тобто це
whatever,
єдина система. І
doesn't matter
якщо
how
ми
strong
говоримо
we
про
are,
стійкість,
we
то
won't
це
be
про
able to function
якість.
if our
Якість,
body
яка
is in poor
дозволяє
condition. So we
реагувати на
want
зміни в зовнішньому
this
середовищі,
system, we want
яка
this ability to
усвідомлює, які
respond
зміни
to
відбулися
environmental
всередині,
changes,
яка
to
може
our
на це
internal
зреагувати
changes.
максимально
We must
адекватно і
respond
при цьому
properly.
витримати свою
And
ж
at the
реакцію на ці
same
зміни.
time, we must
Ну,
cope
по
with our
великому
own
рахунку.
reaction to these
І
changes.
тоді це таке дуже воно розшириться, цей компонент, але з
That's
одного боку
so on
розширюється, а з
the
другого
one
боку він
hand,
стає
we
зрозумілий
expand
кожній
our resilience, but
частинці,
on the other
кожному
hand,
члену громади, а
we
що він
learn
може
how to
зробити
better understand
насправді. Да?
ourselves.
Тобто
Every member of the
саме
community
в
knows
такому
what I can
форматі
do in order
збереження
to support my
власної
community.
стійкості, стійкості
It's
своєї родини,
about
сім'ї і системи,
protecting
в
our
якій я
own
працюю,
resilience,
особливо
family,
системи
individual
ветеранів.
resilience, family resilience,
Дякую.
and collective resilience.
Спасибі,
Thank
пані
you so much.
Олено. Я бачу, що пані
Thank you so
Оксана
much,
хоче
Miss Elena.
зреагувати
I
на
see that
питання
Miss
з приводу
Oksana
браку.
wants to
Тільки
respond
одну
to this
репліку, будь
practical
ласка,
question,
колего.
but
Повірте,
just
мене
please
виправдовуєте,
very
що в мене
brief.
залишилася купа запитань
I have
неозвучених.
so many
По
questions
одній
for
репліці
you,
і маю фінальне
but
запитання до вас. Будь ласка.
but our
Я
time is
додам, просто
limited, so
є
just a
в
very
Україні
short
в
response,
нормах
and then I will ask a
стандартна вищої
final
освіти
question.
закріплена
In
норма.
Ukraine, we
Вона, як
have a
правило, в
higher
наших
education,
вузах від
university
20 до
education
30%
standards.
це
So
практика
at our
студентів,
university, 20 to
обов'язкова
30% of time
практичних
is for
база, тобто
practical
згідно
study. So
заключених
according
університетом і
to
практичною
contracts
базою економіки. Їх
university
може бути від там
make
15
with
до
various
40%.
facilities,
Але вони є
they may have
для
something
фахівців
between
соціальної
15 and
роботи і для
40%. It's true for
психологів це
social
є
workers, for
обов'язково, це є
psychologists.
обов'язковий
There
елемент.
is it's a
Інша
mandatory
справа, що за
requirement. I mean,
кордоном
practical
практична
training.
складова
But
вона
in
становить
foreign
від 50 до
universities, this practical
60%
component is between
взагалі
50
всіх
and
занять цієї
60%
програми
of
навчання.
all
У нас
curriculum.
Міністерство освіти, на жаль, і науки не
Here,
пускає
our
туди кілька разів
Ministry of
апелювали,
Education and
просили,
Science doesn't
тому
support
ми,
it.
як
We
кажуть,
attempted to lobby these
хитруємо
changes
і
several
в ці
times. So
компоненти
now we need to
вплітаємо
use
як
some tricks
вишиванка в різні
and
курси,
we
але
need
точно є
to
в різних
use
університетах
intertwined
від
courses.
20
But
до
I'm sure that
30%
at
це
various at
практика
every
і
university
прив'язка до
they
практичної
have up to
бази. Просто
30% of
зараз,
practical
звичайно, зараз
training.
таким масивом
Of course,
людей, яким потрібна допомога,
now there are so
які дуже
many people who
швидко
need
в такі
help,
включаються,
and we
і от
need to
це
engage
напрацювання цих
graduates really
практичних скілів,
quickly.
воно
And they need
дуже
to,
інтенсивно
but
має
right
бути.
now
І
they
ми
develop
збільшимо
these
ці
practical
частини.
skills really
Давайте на
intensely.
компроміс приймемо те, що ми всі
Okay,
розуміємо.
so
За
we
такою
all
потребою, за такого
understand
запиту
that
практична
given the
складова
need
має
and given demand,
перше
practical
зростати,
component is very
друге
important.
ефективно
It must grow
наповнюватися.
and it must be
Я як
efficient.
викладач також можу це підтвердити. Колеги, останнє запитання.
I am an
І воно
educator
буде
myself and I
особисте.
agree with it.
Я
But
думаю, присутні
very
люди
last
в мене
personal
також мають
question.
відчуття, що ви просто от на сеансі
You know,
психотерапії.
everyone here
Пане
has
Миколо,
a
то
strange
нічого
feeling
залишився, не
that we are at
злякався.
the psychotherapy session.
Спасибі. Це жарт,
So thank you so much. It's a joke. I'm trying to make joke, but it was this experience is really very enjoyable. So I have a last personal question for you. And what do you personally do when you when you struggle, when you feel bad, when you feel scared? What's the first thing you do in such situations? One friend of mine said you need to
Що
know
ви
how to grieve.
робите, коли вам
So
погано?
what do you do when you
Я
feel
розумію,
bad?
що я прошу майже зізнання, але
I know that I'm asking you for a
давайте
very personal
спробуємо.
confession,
А ми це
but let's
втіхуємо
try to
собі
answer it.
на олівець.
And we will use it as a
Я
tip from you.
усамітнююсь. Я усамітнююсь якраз з-за
I
того,
want to
що
stay to
соціум
spend
має
some
мені
time with
заважати в
myself.
ці
I
моменти,
want
коли
to
я
be
знову
alone.
відновлююся.
I don't
Я
want
знаходжу свої
society to
інструменти, свої
mess with
рецепти для
my
того, щоб
recovery,
відновитися
and
і
I
вийти
use
в
my
світ, щоб
tools, my
можливо,
recipes
яка я
to
була
recover,
вчора
and
пригнічена.
then go
Сьогодні я
back
можу всім
to
допомагати, бути сильною
back to
та
the society
триматися
where
всіх,
I'm strong,
спонукати і
where
плекати
I'm
свою
helpful.
стійкість, звісно.
So I need to
Поділіться
spend some time
своїм.
alone.
Дуже знайома схема.
Yeah, okay, and I
Пані
feel you. I
Оксано,
can
будь
relate to it,
ласка.
Miss Oksana.
Ну,
What
це
do you
теж
do?
мій спосіб з тим, як справитися,
Well,
та це
it's my
усамітнення,
my
але, напевно,
coping
на першому
strategy.
місці
I
це
also
все-таки
want to spend
є
some time alone.
перемога і молитва.
But
Та?
first of
Тобто
all,
це
I
що
believe in
найбільше
God, and
допомагає, і
I
наші
pray.
близькі
And
люди
my
дають
family is
нам
also
можливість
very
почувати саме
supportive.
в безпеці.
I spend some
Той
time
час,
with my
коли ще
family
було
where I feel
невизначеність,
safe.
навколо
You know,
значніше, для тебе
there is so
визначеність,
many
тобто твоя
uncertainty
родина,
around, and
і ти в
people
ній
you know well,
і
people
отримаєш
like your
підтримку,
family, people who
це
are safe
найголовніше.
and supportive,
Пані
are
Ольго, будь
really
ласка,
helpful
ви.
here. Yes, Olga.
Я, як це не дивно, перше,
It may sound
якщо я
surprising,
себе недобре почуваю, я
but
кажу
when
собі,
I
що
don't
це
feel well,
тимчасовий час,
I
що
said
це
that
буде
it's
не назавжди, що
temporarily. It
треба
will
зараз щось
change. It's not
зробити, і
forever.
воно
You need
відновиться.
to do something now
А
and you will
друге, я
recover.
також я не
And
люблю
then
усамітнюватися
I
і
don't like to
бути
spend time
вдома, і
alone. I like to be at
бути із
home. I like to
рідними.
spend time with my loved
Ми
ones.
втратили свій дім в 2014
We
році.
lost our
Ми
home back in
побудували свій дім
2014.
під
Now we
Києвом.
have
В
built a
нього
new home
потрапила
in Kyiv
ракета, не
region.
ракета, а снаряд в
Then it
22-му
was
році.
hit
Ми
by
його
a shell in
відремонтували. І
2022.
зараз
We
у них
repaired it.
це
And
шахеди там
now,
десь літають,
you
щось
know,
таке. Але зараз
the
що?
drones are flying over
Місті
our head.
це те,
But when
де я
I'm
завжди
home,
відчуваю
I
спокій і
feel safe
відновлення. І в
and
нас там є
calm,
камін, і я дуже
and
люблю
we have a
камін.
fireplace. I really like to
Пані
sit
Олена.
next to the fireplace. And
Ну, ви
Miss Elena,
зрозуміли,
please.
да, вже типова відповідь для психологів, усамітнитись.
So it's typical for psychologists to
Але
like to
це,
spend time
напевно,
alone.
тілесні активності якісь.
And
Ну,
I also
якби
like
доступне,
body-oriented
будь-що мені
things,
принципово важливо, щоб
whatever
світло
is
яке проникало
available.
з будинку, я
And
бачила
I
горизонт,
really
щось
want to
зелене.
see horizon
Щось
and
зелене,
something green
не
from
знаю,
my
кущ,
window.
дерево,
Let it be
гілку,
a
будь-що, але воно
brush,
має
a
рухатись,
tree,
тобто воно має жити. Да?
something green and
І
moving,
тоді я
something alive.
перезапускаю всі
That
процеси
helps me
по
to
можливості,
reset all
незалежно
my
від того, є в мене
process.
можливість
It
усамітнитись,
doesn't
немає
matter
усамітнитись. І
if I
там
have a
на
chance
цьому
to be
місці
alone
роботи
or
мене
not.
кабінет, де немає зеленого,
For
або я ходжу
example,
на
right
балкон,
now I have
там
a
точно
room
зелене. Да?
where there is nothing green
І
in the
це
window,
подбати про
so
себе.
I
Це
go
завжди
to the
відповідь
another
спочатку
floor.
подбати про
So
себе,
it's take
бо
care.
професію
First, you need
виконує
to
людина.
care after yourself
І тільки
because
тоді ми професіонали,
you're the
якщо ми в
one and
притомному,
you're a
адекватному або якомусь
professional
відносно
only
свідомому
when you
стані.
feel more or less sustainable.
Спасибі вам за відвертість. Я, між іншим,
Thank you so much for your
також
honesty.
практикую схожі речі. От останнім
I'm also
часом,
doing
коли
something
довкола більше
similar.
темряви, я
And
ще
since
частіше
recently,
промрію
when
про
there is
ялинку
so
під
much
стіною і
darkness
палю
around,
свічі.
I dream
Я з
about my
задоволенням
own New
знайшла
Year tree and I
матеріали,
light
які вам
candles.
роздавали форуму, свічі.
And
Ви
I have
звернули на
found
неї
the
увагу
candle
коли?
in your
Це вам
handouts.
на темний
It's for
грудень.
you.
Зверніть, будь ласка,
It's to
спосіб
light your
також
dark
збереження стійкості.
December.
Але
It's
я про
also
матеріали
good
насправді
coping strategy.
маю згадати з іншої поважної причини.
But I
Шановні друзі, у
mentioned
вас там є
for a good
анкета.
reason.
Я прошу
You
всіх, хто
have
досі їх не
questionnaire
заповнив,
forms,
це зробити.
and
І не
I will
забудьте
kindly
віддати
ask you to fill it
організаторам,
and
будь ласка.
return to
А
the
я свого боку
organizers.
хочу ще раз представити вам
And now I
учасниць
will
панелі.
once
Будь
again
ласка,
introduce our
Оксана
panelists.
Бойко, доктор
Oksana
філософії
Boyko,
соціальної роботи,
PhD in social
завідувач
work,
кафедри школи
the
соціальної роботи
deputy head of
Києва-Могилянського національного університету
of
Києво-Могилянської
of
академії.
department at the
Ірина
Social
Гладка,
Work
голова
School,
громадського
Kyiv-Mogilянska
об'єднання
Academia,
«Мир на
Irina
дорозі»,
Hladka,
Ольга Сергієнко,
head
лікарка-психотерапевт,
of IDP
керівниця Київської
Union,
філії
Olga
Центру по
Sergienko,
сім'ї та
head of
викладачка
Family
Інституту
Circle, and educated
когнітивно-поведінкової
Ukrainian
терапії,
Institute of
і
Cognitive
Олена
and Behavioral
Ярмолюк,
Therapy, and
психологиня,
Olena Yarmoluk,
психотерапевтка,
psychologist,
супервізорка,
psychotherapist,
навчальна тренерка
supervisor,
і
training
завідувачиня
instructor,
Центру
and
життєстійкості Рівне. Шановні друзі,
Rivne
дякую вам.
Residence Center
Зробимо
professional.
маленьку
So,
перерву
dear
на
friends,
каву.
thank you so much.
І о
We're about to have a small coffee
15:30
break,
продовжимо
and
форум. На нас чекає ще одна
at
панель.
3:30
Дякую.
p.m. we will continue our forum. We're about to have another panel discussion.
Я з собою візьму, просто я часто. Спасибі величезне.
Дуже дякую вам. Вам дуже якби тепло і спокійно почуваєшся, і тому це завжди дуже
Спасибі.
важливо так, бути на сцені.
Я вам вдячна. Я тут сиджу і думаю, я ж не тонкосвіта.
Дякую, дуже вам дякую. Дякую.
В анкеті, тому мушу вам показати, що які очікування виправдались. Ведуча пані Анна Безугла перевершила мої очікування.
Спасибі.
Дуже така приємна, прямо серед психологів ви якраз не відрізняєтеся.
Дякую, спасибі. Можемо? Або принести. Не проблема, але мені потрібно червоний. Два сіл. Не два була. Шановні друзі, кава безумовно смачна, я не маю в цьому сумнівів, але нам
The
час
coffee is
завершити розмову.
delicious,
Я прошу вас
but it's
повертатися.
time for us to finish with
Будь
our coffee
ласка,
break.
повертатися
So
до
please
залу, до аудиторії,
come
аби
back
ми
to
могли
our hall
продовжувати
so we can
форум.
continue
У
our
вас ще
forum.
буде сьогодні час
You
на
will still have a
спілкування. Він
chance
окремо також
today for
виділений. Будь
networking.
ласка.
We have a special time for it.
От що означає люди захоплені своєю
You see,
роботою.
well, what
Неможливо
happens when
колеги,
people are
які
so excited
працюють
about
майже в
their
одному
job.
офісі, точно в одній
Yes,
області відірвати.
so
Одне
it's
від одного
barely
і
possible to
все ж таки
separate colleagues work in one region and bring them to the hall.
повернути до зали. Будь ласка, підходьте і ми
Please
будемо починати.
approach and we will start.
Друзі, ми
Dear
продовжуємо
friends,
говорити про
so we
нашу з вами
continue to
стійкість,
discuss
про
our
те, що
resilience.
допомагає нам
We
витримувати
continue to
цей
talk
марафон,
about things that
тримати
help us
себе міцно
to withstand
і
this
тримати
long
тих, хто поруч
run,
з нами,
to stand
підставляти
strong and to
можливості
support
своїх
those
плече.
who are next to
Можна
us,
сказати,
to
що
offer them a
виступ,
helping
який зараз
shoulder.
відбудеться для вас, стане
Actually,
своєрідним
the discussion we're
жестом
about to have
підтримки.
will become a kind of
Наша
supportive
героїня Ірина вже
gesture for
почала,
you.
тому що я
And
бачу,
our,
зараз вона
and
якраз
as
вписується
you
в
see,
розуміння
today
стійкості.
someone is writing
Ось
the
вона також
understanding of
додається до
resilience
проекту
to
створення
add to our
образу
project
стійкої громади.
to create the
Але я
resilient
все ж таки
community
змушена
image.
запросити її до нас.
But
Будь ласка,
still, I have
вітайте
to invite
українська
her on the
акторка із
stage.
МО,
Please welcome
театру та телешоу
Ukrainian
Наталка
cinema
Денисенко.
theater performer Natalka Denisenko.
Можна влаштувати його так, як вам
Yes,
зручно.
you
Так, як
can
вам
have it.
Насправді я могла б без мікрофону,
Actually, I can talk without a microphone, but hello everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you so much for having me today in this hall. I have so much things to tell you, but we have talked a lot during our previous panels, Miss Elena, about voices, about what do we do during the time of great challenge, about how voices of people around us help us to prevail. Uh, and you have the Voice of Happiness cartoon. Tell us, please, what do you think? You're a person who struggles like many other of us. You also struggle with this war, with this time of great challenge. What's the voice of happiness for you? And what can become the voice of happiness for every one of us? And do you think, do we have right for this happiness, for these happy voices? It's an amazing question because the voice of happiness in this cartoon is my favorite piece of art. It's me in my real life. When I was recording, my voice went to Hollywood, to Disney. They were approving me, and she says, "Yes, this voice actor will participate, and there are some dramatic scenes there." And when I was telling these words written by authors, I broke up in tears. Just imagine you cry out of happiness in a cartoon. It's quite normal. So of course we all have a right to happiness. We are entitled to enjoy every day of our life. And for me, as a voice of happiness, the resilience for me means to choose to be happy every day. Yes, I also struggle. I sometimes I feel like giving up, but I keep smiling. I force myself to think about cheerful things. And recently, I have a red carpet. I was surrounded by celebrities. Everything was dressed so pretty. And a journalist asked me, Natalka, what does inspire today? And it says, the feeling that I may die every day. And I was laughing cheerfully. And then, yes, indeed, every day of my life is so unique. It can be the last day of my life. It's scary, but it's so wonderful at the same time. It's so amazing that I can be here and enjoy my life, that I can be in a place where I want to be, talk to people I want to talk. So God gave me this opportunity despite all the struggles. So I think this actually is the voice of happiness for me, my own internal voice, this permission. Thank you so much for explaining it. So it explains the name of your performance. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, Natalia Kodnesenko will make a performance for you, the poetry of Unbreakable Nation. Please welcome. So, before my performance, I want to add just a few more words about my own resilience. It's something I want to start with. But I already said it when I was answering those questions. What are some of my own coping strategy? When the full-scale invasion started, I was really stressed. Everyone was stressed. No one expects such a terrible scale of tragedy. No one expected such incredible events. But there was one thing that helped me. Few months later, I actually allowed myself to return to my normal life, to continue my work, to enjoy the life in the setting I live in. I mentioned red carpet. For example, it can be your birthday, it can be a children's birthday, some kind of celebration. We all have an opportunity to celebrate. Some days where normal people throughout the world are cheerful, are having fun. But sometimes we don't allow it to ourselves because there is a war in a country, because there are men and women, boys and girls are fighting on the battlefield for our independence in terrible conditions. So are we allowed to be happy? And now I know that we are. It sounds a bit surrealistic at the first, it may seem a bit surrealistic at the first glance, but it's real because that's natural. And when I allowed myself to live, when I allowed myself to be happy, it's not like I don't care about other people, I only enjoy my own life. No, it doesn't work this way. But every day I make a choice. And I think this insight has become the most important thing in my happy life. And today I'm really honest and sincere. I'm a happy woman. My husband, he's an actor. But on the very first day of the full-scale invasion, he decided to volunteer for the military. He's in military right now. When everything started, I really struggled to accept it. I couldn't accept that my husband was about to go to some dangerous place to fight for something. How would I, how would I deal without him? But of course, eventually I accepted his choice. And I realized that I also have my own mission. He made this decision for a reason. It means that he trusted me and he believed in me, in my capacity to support him. And when he comes home, it happens rarely. But initially, he really struggled to adapt, to go to a store, to go to a restaurant. It's a great stress for military men. When my husband first went home on rotation, I brought him to a spa resort for him to swim in a pool and enjoy a massage, but he was so stressed. And I realized that it would be better for us to stay at home because he couldn't accept how can you relax here when such a terrible things happen over there. But with every time when he spent some time in a peaceful society, he enjoyed more and more. So I believe that women are also responsible. They're responsible for helping our men, and we must be patient. First of all, we must be patient. We must give them time to adapt. We must find the right words to say. I don't have a one fit for all recipe or one fit for all tips for women, but it's possible. And I really believe that after after the war ends, so when they come home, I believe that it's possible. It's possible to reintegrate. It's possible to support them, to make them stay here as good, as better as possible. Because when my husband says, when I see you happy, when I see that you're all right, that your job is all right, that your creative career is all right, I feel inspired. I don't worry about you. I know that you don't cry. I know that you're okay. I know that you're stable. I know that you are resilient. It inspires me to be resilient too. So I think it's very important for every one of us to accept this responsibility for our own life and own resilience. We can choose to be happy in the existing setting. And I have a special project. This project was born during the full-scale invasion. It's called Natalka Читалка. First, this project started online. I was reading Ukrainian poetry. I really love the poetry since high school. But once I was invited to perform at a female forum and I didn't know what to say. I'm an actor. What can I tell to people? How to be resilient or what? But then I suddenly thought that I can read some poetry. I thought no one needed poetry. Poetry is not a song. I'm not a singer. I cannot sing an amazing song. But after that performance, I realized that poetry is healing. Art is healing because our people sometimes struggle to find the time to go to a show, to go to a concert. I know that all of you work in communities. Our military people, people affected by the war, sometimes they struggle to listen to loud music, to witness loud applause and dance. It may not help them, but makes the things even worse. But then I realized that poetry, that words accompanied by music, are indeed healing. Someone's crying because someone feels inspired. Someone starts to think about some of their own things because you have listened not to the lyrics but to your feelings. During my performance, I always say, don't listen to my words, listen to yourself. So my project, Natalka Читалка, that's what it's about. And now I want to do a little performance for yourself. And I hope that maybe you will feel something. I hope that maybe it will relate to you. And maybe sometimes you do something similar back in your communities. You may have a poetry competition. It would be amazing. And Ukrainian literature is very rich in poetry. And now I will show it to you. A round of applause, please.
Сьогодні будуть декілька
So
віршів.
today I will read you a few
Це такі надихаючі
pieces of poetry.
вірші
They are
про війну.
inspiring
Тому що перший
about the war,
вірш, який
I
я
guess,
обрала, це
because
вірш
the first piece of
військового
poetry I
Павла
selected
Вишибаби.
is written by a military serviceman, Pavlo Vyshibaba.
І взагалі
I
я
really
вважаю, що
like the
вірші
way
це
he
щось
writes. I
таке,
like his
що
poetry.
приходить
And I
тобі,
think
не знаю,
that
з
poetry
космосу, з
is a
всесвіту,
thing
від
that
Бога,
comes from
тому
a
що коли
space,
слова
from the
переплітаються
universe,
в Рими,
because
і
the words
з них
intertwined
виходить
into
така
the rhymes.
музика, тому що це
They
ритм,
create a
це
kind of
рими,
music because it's
це
about
щось
rhythm.
неймовірне. І
It's
дійсно
something
цьому
incredible.
чоловіку
And
надано
yes,
величезний дар,
indeed,
величезний оцей
this
голос
man is very
радості,
gifted.
тому
He
що
has
він,
this voice of
будучи в
happiness
страшних умовах, наші
because
військові
in
знаходяться
the
в страшних умовах.
terrible
Він
conditions
вийшов з
of the
такі
front
світлі,
line, he's
прекрасні
capable of
вірші.
writing such a wonderful and shiny words.
Тільки не пиши мені про війну. Розкажи, чи є біля тебе сад, чи ти чуєш коників і цикад, і чи повзають равлики по в'юну? Як у тих далеких від нас краях називають люди своїх котів? Те, чого найбільше би я хотів, щоб не було смутку в твоїх рядках. Чи цвітуть там вишні та абрикос? Якщо подарують тобі букет, не розказуй, як бігла ти від ракет. Розкажи, як добре нам тут жилось. Запроси в Україну до нас гостей, всіх, кого зустрінеш на чужині. Ми покажемо кожному по війні, як ми вдячні за спокій своїх дітей. На своїх вечорах я завжди
During my performances, I always have all the poetry handwritten. It helps me to remember them. And then I give it to the audience. And sometimes I try to tear it out of my hands. Oh my God, this poetry is for me. I feel it. So today someone will receive 4 amazing poetic gifts.
Або ще таке, коли хтось найголосніше
Or
аплодує,
sometimes when someone applauds the loudest, this person receives a gift. So the next poetry is by my favorite poet, Vasil Simonenko. You know, there are these poets who wrote this love poetry, such a brutal and manly. But Vasil Simonenko is so romantic. His poetry is so lyrical, it's incredibly lyrical. But I do remember this poetry from our school course of literature. It's not lyrical, it's not about love. I remember how we had to learn it by heart in school. I thought it was something about this era of the past, about some terrible events of the past, something known to us. But now I'm reading it and I understand that it's something that's happening to us now. It has been always there in our country. So it's very important for us to remember about this legacy of past generations. This poetry was written back in 1960s. We have to carry this legacy and pass it on. We have to foster this culture. We have to foster this idea of protecting our country.
Можливо, знову загримлять гармати, і танк зімне пшеницю на лану, і буде плакать і журитись мати, коли сини йтимуть на війну. І хтось востаннє поцілує милу, і хтось сльозу непрохано змахне, а може, дехто втратить віру й силу, своє життя рятуючи одне. Але не я. Як виснути не стану, хоч як не буде боляче мені, за нашу землю, дорогу й кохану, я рад прийнять на себе всі вогні. За тих дітей, що бігають до школи, за матерів, змарнілих у труді, за наші рідні верби довгополі, за наші дні прекрасні й молоді. І тут ні сліз, ні відчаю не треба, і тут не треба страху і ниття. Живе лиш той, хто не живе для себе, хто для других виборює життя. Знаєте, мені дуже подобаються вірші, які
I
зараз
really love
написані
these
під час
poems. I really love the poetry
повномасштабного
written
вторгнення,
during
тому що
full-scale
вони мають
invasion
право от бути
because
серед Василя Симоненка,
they take the honorable place among Vasil
Я
Semenenko,
думаю, що
Taras
через
Shevchenko, and
роки
Lesya
вони
Ukrainka.
напишуть
And I
програму
think
української
that after
літератури для
many
дітей,
years
тому
they
що
will be included
це
into the
те
school course of literature
прекрасне мистецтво
because
літератури,
this is the
яке
wonderful
народилося,
literature
і
art
те, яке нам
born
дуже
from
близьке,
the
яке нам
war.
дуже
It's
болить, і
something we can
те,
really
яке
relate
мають
to.
читати
It's manifestation of
наші
our
діти і
pain,
майбутні
and
покоління,
the future
щоб
generations
це
of our
дійсно
children must
було
must
ніколи
foster
знову.
it art,
І є одна
so
автор
something,
Галина
so
Британ,
the
яка
war never happens
написала
again. And
неймовірно
there is
надихаючий
author
вірш,
Helena
від якого в
Britton
мене
who wrote
мурашки
a
по
really
шкірі,
inspiring
і
poem
я
which gives
дуже
me
вірю, що
shivers.
саме так,
And
як
I
вона
truly
написала,
believe
так воно і
that
буде.
one day it will happen just in the way she wrote in her poem.
Ти думав, що я вмиюся слізьми, впаду перед тобою на коліна, нащадку сумнозвісної орди не по зубах тобі. Я Україна, я нація, я сила, я народ, я світло, що ніколи не згасає, я правда, без прогнилих нагород, я істинна любов, що не вмирає. Ти думав, я струмочок без води, а я ріка стрімка, глибоководна, я з кожним днем міцнішаю. А ти все нижче й нижче падаєш в безодню. Ну і, звичайно, я не можу не прочитати
And
цей
of
вірш.
course,
Це той вірш, яким я
there's
завершую майже
another
всі свої
poem
вечори.
I definitely must read.
І
I
теж ми
usually
всі
end
його
my
знаємо
performances with this
прекрасно,
one.
і я його
We
вчила
all
в школі.
perfectly know it.
Мені
I learned it by
здавалося, що
heart when
цей
I was
вірш
in
про те,
school.
як
And
от
back then I
дівчина
thought
така
that this
страждає,
poetry
страждає, але
is
вона така каже,
about
ні, все
a
буде
lady
добре.
who's suffering,
Отакі
but
були
is trying to
асоціації.
say, keep
Це Леся
calm, everything will
Українка.
be all right. So
І
it's a famous
якщо
poem
раніше
by
мені
Lesya
здавалося,
Ukrainka.
що
And
автори
when I
це
was a
такі
child,
серйозні
I
дядьки,
thought
котрі
that
слухають
poets are
викладача
serious ladies and
пером в
gentlemen
окулярах і такий пишуть
sitting with
вірш,
a feather and
то
wearing
насправді
glasses
все не
and
так.
writing these
І
poems.
Володимир
Actually, in
Сосюра був
reality,
такий
it's not like
гулячий
this.
хлопчина, і
Volodymyr
Леся
Sosura was
Українка
quite a
теж
fun
там
guy,
любовні
and
якісь
Lesya
там
Ukrainka
вони
also
переписки були
had so
таємні, вона
many secret
їздила там по
love
морях на всякі
correspondence, and
вечори
she
і
traveled
витратила,
to
уявіть
seashore
собі, на той
resorts.
час їй
And
дали
back then,
придане, ну,
just
грошове,
imagine,
а вона
she
витратила
had
його, щоб
inheritance, she
записати
had a fortune, but she
кобзарі, пісні
spent it
кобзарів. Зараз у нас є
to
Ірина
record the
Неманів, я
songs by
ці пісні, де вона
Kobzars.
просто
And
от
thanks to
батьки
her,
такі,
we
на тобі
now
на
have this
свадьбу
legacy.
$2000,
So
а вона
just
казала,
imagine your
хорошо,
parents
пока,
give you
і поїхала,
$2,000 to
щось
celebrate your
записувати.
wedding,
Це
and
ж
she said,
нічого
"Okay, goodbye. I will go
такого.
to
Уявіть собі,
countryside
що
to
це за
record
жінка.
folk songs."
І цей вірш я
So
читаю
just
завжди
imagine this
наприкінці
personality.
вечорів, тому
And I
що
usually
дійсно він такий
wrap up my
надихаючий. Це
performances with
саме
this very inspiring
той
piece of
вірш,
poetry.
який
This is about our resilience. Just imagine, as we're attacked by missiles every day, but we continue to live. We continue our normal life. We continue to enjoy our life despite it.
Гетьте думи, ви хмари осінні. Тож тепер весна золота. Чи то так у жалю в голосінні промайнуть молоді літа? Ні, я хочу крізь сльози сміятись, серед лиха співати пісні, без надії таки сподіватись, жити хочу, геть думи сумні. Я на вбогім сумнім перелозі буду сіять барвисті квітки, буду сіять квітки на морозі, буду лить на них сльози гіркі. І від сліз тих гарячих розтане та кора льодовая міцна. Може, квіти зійдуть, і настане ще для мене весела весна. Я на гору круту, крем'яную, буду камінь важкий підіймать, і, несучи вагу ту страшною, буду пісню веселу співать. Вдовгу темною нічку не видно, не столю ні на хвильку очей, все шукатиму зірку провідну, ясну владарку темних ночей. Так, я буду крізь сльози сміятись, серед лиха співати пісні, без надії таки сподіватись, буду жити, геть думи сумні. Дуже дякую. Дякую вам. Ще прошу ваших
Thank you so much. Thank you. And another round of applause for my musician, Olesa Bartko.
Дуже дякую вам.
Thank you so much.
Дякую за цей день. Це
Thank
була
you.
неймовірна
Thank you for today.
Я насправді дуже
This day is
переживала,
very
тому що
amazing.
на
It's
зазвичай мої
inspiring.
вечори приходять
And I was
люди,
really nervous
які
because
слухають
usually my
мене з
performances
замираючим
are attended by
серцем.
my
Але ви
fans.
також чудова
But
публіка.
you're an amazing audience as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Natalka Denisenko. A round of applause. Thank you, Natalia. And now we're about to continue our event. And we have another very important panel discussion. The end. I think it's really appropriate after Natalka's amazing performance and after her story about her husband who's in the military. Now we will talk about veterans. We will talk about veteran needs and about psychosocial support the veteran needs and about their reintegration into civilian life. And now I invite to the stage Людмила Джух. Людмила Джух is here in the hall. Людмила Джух is acting head of psychology, physical and mental health unit at the Ministry of Veteran Affairs. Please. Victoria Klimchuk-Dlugac, Senior Manager of Ukrainian IREX Emergency Rapid Response Foundation. Could you please sit a little bit closer so I don't feel isolated here on the stage? Thank you so much. I hope for your support, okay? Andriy Kuchev, founder of Injured Military Veterans Union of Ukraine, Strong 300.
Будь ласка, розташовуйтесь,
A
пані
special
Андрію.
place for you. Please take a seat, Mr. Andrei. And now we will talk about the power of veteran resource. Now you have a very good example. And Mr. Alexander Chevorsov, please join us, veteran psychologist, head of Hotline Department of Ukrainian Veteran Fund, Andriy Palko. If you don't know him, but you have seen him in the opening part of our forum, senior tactical medic of the Territorial Defense Brigade, the separated battalions of Police Wolves of your Territorial Defense Forces. And Lyudmila Dvarko, please, head of Dubny Psychosocial Support Center, Rivne region. Dear colleagues, I have one very simple question, common for all of you, but still it's of utmost importance. It may seem obvious, but I think many of you over the course of last years, especially during the last 3 years and previous 10 years, it was also discussed. So I've heard this question, especially when something bad happens in the society. Guys will come back from front line and sort it out. Basically, society greatly relies on our veterans, great expectations, like a magic wand. If they can defend us against the enemies, they will come back and solve all our problems. But seems like the situation is a bit more complicated, so to say. Actually, the society must prepare for return of veterans. Now I will ask each of you, maybe Mr. Dmileyev will start. So I will ask each of you to tell us how this bilateral process is supposed to happen. What society has to offer to veterans? What are some real needs of our veterans? What are some of their wishes? What kind of resources the veterans may become for society? And please pay and special attention to veteran families. What are the needs of veteran families? Because this is the immediate circle of support and probably they deal with the most difficult issue. Miss Edmila Juh, please.
Добрий день, рада всіх вітати.
Hello,
Давайте
happy.
перевіримо мікрофончики.
Let's just test our
Добрий
microphone.
день.
О, краще. Набагато.
Hello.
День, рада всіх вітати.
Now it's much better, so I'm happy to welcome everyone. And one of the key tasks of the Ministry of Veteran Affairs is ensure holistic and comprehensive recovery of veterans and their family members through provision of free of charge psychosocial support. Therefore, now the Ministry of Veterans is implementing three-level system of mental health support, where the first level is a social adaptation and integration, social follow-up, which can be provided by a veteran assistant. It's going to be our case manager, a follow-up specialist. We just introduced this position. So it will mostly happen in communities. Then the second level is psychological care provided by professional psychologists, our employees. The third level is a medical and social and psychological support provided by multidisciplinary teams, which is supposed to include at least 4 professionals, including psychiatrist, medical doctor, and the other 3 can include psychologists and psychotherapists. So right now, the psychological support is provided based on our directive dated November 29th, 2022, which approves the procedure for provision of mental health support and defines a mechanism for provision of free of charge psychosocial support. That there is also a special psychological support registry for veterans. This register is maintained by highly qualified professionals and it's available.
З цим відчуттям легше проживати
So,
темряву. Ну от в мене
Now it's easier for us. Now I have a sound. Okay. So, in order to provide accessible free of charge psychological support, the Ministry of Veteran Affairs developed a special psychological support register, which is regularly updated, and now all corresponding information is available on the website of our ministry, which can be accessed by any veteran, any military serviceman, and the
певну
and
інформацію,
veteran family
контактні дані,
member, any
звернутися
veteran family
безпосередньо
member to
до
get more
фахівців.
information.
Також,
There are contact details
щоб,
here, and you can
наприклад,
use them
отримати
to contact the
психологічну
professionals.
допомогу, кожен
Moreover, to
ветеран,
get psychosocial
член
support,
родини,
every
військовослужбовець
veteran
також може
family member,
звернутися.
every military
Його може
serviceman
направити, зорієнтувати
may also
сімейний
receive
лікар, або,
referral
наприклад,
from the
лікар,
family, from a
який
family doctor,
ну,
or
перебуває, наприклад, у військовому
from
стаціонарі,
a
і ветеран, і
or
лікар,
from any
який
healthcare provider. For
лікує
example, veteran
ветерана,
is
може
being
також
treated at a
скоординувати
hospital,
дійсно відправити
and
на
an
психологічну
attending
допомогу
physician
саме до
may also
психолога.
refer
Або до
their
суб'єктів
patient
наших, які розміщені на реєстрі, переважно може
to a
звернутися також
psychologist.
і
Um,
безпосередньо сам ветеран зі
and
своєю
veterans may also
ініціативою.
seek help from entities
Наразі
included in our
ми
register based on their own
розробили
initiative.
порядок
So we have
змін до
developed a
постанови
special
1338
procedure,
щодо надання
amendments to
психологічної
this
допомоги
directive
і
on psychosocial support,
підвищуємо глобальну ставку для
and we
тих
increasing
суб'єктів,
the
які
global
надають
rate
психологічну
for
допомогу
entity
саме
for
на другому рівні, тому
psychosocial
що у нас
support providers at the
станом на
second
зараз це
level,
дуже низька
because
ставка і
as of
мало дуже
today the
психологів,
pricing
це
rate
не
is very too
конкурентоспроможна,
low.
так
It's
сказати,
basically not
ставка.
competitive
Тому
for
наразі уже
psychologists.
наш проєкт постанови
So right now we have a
погоджено з
draft
заінтересованими
amendments
сторонами
to
і надіслано
this
на
directive, which
правову
is approved by all
експертизу до Міністерства
stakeholders,
справ
and it's sent to
ой,
legal
до Міністерства
proofing by
юстиції
the
України.
Ministry of Justice of
Наприклад,
Ukraine.
якщо для порівняння глобальна ставка
Just
на
for
зараз
comparison, right
суб'єкти
now
наші
the
отримують
global rate,
компенсацію, це 254
our
гривні
providers
18
are
копійок, а
compensated
надалі,
with
якщо
several
ми
dozens
уряд
of
ухвалить
hryvnias.
цю постанову,
But
тому що ми
if the directive is
стараємося,
approved
і
by the
це
government,
буде
we're doing our best to achieve it.
1300,
It will be
1100,
1,300
в такому
or
районі
around
одна
1,300
година
hryvnias per
на
hour
людину.
per
Тому
person.
це робиться все для того, щоб
So
наші
we're doing
послуги були
everything
доступні в
to make
кожній
sure that our
громаді,
services are
в
accessible
кожній
in every
селищі,
community, in
так,
every
щоб доступні були
village,
ветерану.
to make
Тому
sure that veterans can
Пані
actually
Людмила,
access
дякую.
them.
Я
Miss
зрозуміла, і
Ludmila,
це
thank you
чудово,
so
що
much.
в
It's
Україні, в
clear, now it's
державі
clear,
є
and it's
усвідомлення
amazing that
необхідність
the
цієї
government
системи і
understands the need
відпрацьовується.
for it, and it's
Дякую за це
finalizing the
зокрема. От, пані
corresponding
Вікторія,
system.
хотіла
Thank
вам
you for
передати
it.
слово.
And now, Miss Victoria, the
Ну,
floor is
нібито
yours.
систему намагаються обладнати,
Seems
але
like
як
the
взагалі
building this
справи в
system.
реальному житті?
But how
Ветерани
does it
готові
happen in
приймати
real life?
допомогу?
Are our
Ну, от ми собі
veterans
можемо
willing to
уявити,
accept
що вони от
to
просто
this
вишикувалися,
support?
ті, хто
Just
повертаються,
imagine that
і
people
так,
returning from frontline just
кроком
staying
марш
in
за
line
отриманням
and
допомоги. Ну,
go
хіба
and
це
go to
так
seek mental
відбувається? Ви
health support. It
проводили
doesn't
недавно
happen
загальні
this way, right?
дослідження.
I know that
Давайте
you did
почнемо
some
з ваших
survey.
досліджень, з їх
Let's start
результатів.
with your
Потім я буду
survey
просити
and the
вас та
results.
ветеранів
And then
поділитися
I will ask
досвідом, як
veterans
це
to share
було.
some of their
Добре?
experience.
Будь ласка,
How
пані
did
Вікторія,
happen in
давайте.
their case? Miss
Дякую,
Victoria,
сподіваюсь, мене
please.
добре чути. Так,
Thank you
розумію,
so
що
much. I
добре.
hope you can
В
hear me
нас в
well.
IREX є дві програми, які
Here at
працюють з
IREX, we
потребами
have two
ветеранів та
programs that
ветеранок.
deal with the
Одна з
needs
них
of
це Український
veterans.
фонд швидкого
One of them is
реагування. Я є
Ukrainian's
старшою
Rapid
керівницею,
Response
а інша
Fund,
це програма
where I'm a
реінтеграції
senior
ветеранів.
manager, and second
Ось
is
і
Veteran
відповідно
Reintegration
обидві вони
Program.
так чи
So
інакше
both
на
of them
ветеранському полі, друга дуже специфічна
are
і
related to
є
veterans.
така
Second one is
фраза
very
дуже
specific,
вдала,
and
дуже
there's a
хороша,
very
і яку
good
ви, як
saying,
організатори
very good
форуму, тут
wording,
реалізували.
which you
Нічого
have
про
implemented at this
ветеранів
forum.
без
Nothing about
ветеранів.
veterans
Тут у
without
нас є
veterans.
ветерани,
We have
ветеранки.
veterans present in
Ось,
this
і
room.
відповідно хочеш знати, що думають
So
ветерани, то
we really
запитай у них.
want, if
І
you want
так,
to
ми
know what
дійсно IREX
veterans are
провів
thinking
дослідження
about,
в
you
межах
need to ask
програми
them. So
реінтеграції
IREX,
ветеранів.
as
Будь ласка,
part of Veteran
наступний слайд.
Reintegration Program, did a
Або тут є
survey.
клікер, так.
Next slide, please. There is a
Так,
clicker
дякую.
here.
Я буду коментувати українською,
So
слайди
I will be
англійською для
talking
тих, хто,
Ukrainian, but you can
можливо,
see my slides
дивиться
in
нас
English
закордонних
for those who
колег
are
та
watching
колежанок.
us from our
Отож,
foreign
і
colleagues.
в дослідженні
So
взагалі багато вивчалося проблем та потреб
our
ветеранів
surveys
і
focused on key
медичні, і
problems and needs of
соціальні, і
veterans, including
працевлаштування,
medical,
бізнес,
social
все, що
needs,
завгодно.
employment
Воно
needs,
свіженьке,
business
воно
needs. These
2024
data are
року.
fresh.
І я
The
принагідно
survey was
дуже
done in
раджу усім сканувати
2024,
QR-коди
and I
і
actually
зачитувати
can
їх, тому що
encourage you to scan QR code.
відповідно, так як я це пам'ятаю. Перш за все, те, що
So,
дуже
first of all,
бракує кваліфікованих
there is a
фахівчин та
real,
фахівців, які
very
готові
limited
власне
number of
працювати
specialists
саме з
trained and
ветеранами.
willing to work with veterans and
Друге,
their
що вона
families.
із сім'ями
First of
відповідно. Друге, що вона
Then,
виявила, це те, що дуже
then
бракує
there is a
відповідних тренінгів.
real lack
Навіть
of systematic
є
training. There are many specialists, mental health specialists, who want to provide services to veterans, but they don't know where to find training, and they're actively looking for it. Then the survey also identified that there is absence of tools to supervise and monitor the effectiveness of psychological assistance. It's obvious if we don't have enough professionals, we obviously don't have enough supervisors. So, another interesting thing, it says key problems on the side, but it's not a problem, it's rather curious findings. Often veterans seek support for spiritual support from people who share their religious beliefs. As there are military chaplains, there are other religious figures who are, and use often they become the first entry point into psychosocial support because people come to discuss their mental health needs with priests. It's an interesting finding. We need to take it into account. Then, unfortunately, after 11 years of war, there is still a prevailing stigma among veterans about needs of mental health support. Many of them don't want to seek professional help, and many prefer to ignore the issues. Sometimes there is
Молодці, менталка здорова. Логіка приблизно
many veterans believe that if their head is not injured, it means that their mental health is okay. We will give floor to our veterans to comment on it later. So next slide, please. I will tell you how do we deal with these challenges in Ukrainian Rapid Response Fund through a program. First of all, we maintain hotline for crisis psychological support for veterans and their family members. It's run by Ukrainian Veterans Foundation. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander, he's a veteran and the manager of our hotline. So just to get a better understanding of scale, over the 40,000 for psychological consultations were provided over 2 years. It's anonymous. You don't need to go anywhere, look in the eyes, tell about your issues and challenges, because of course some people feel really uncomfortable about one-to-one personal format. Some people prefer to talk anonymously, and this is the reason why we have this hotline. And we also offer legal consultations. I will talk about it a bit later. And we call it MHPSS for a reason. MHPSS stands for mental health and psychosocial support. It's always go in a mix. It's supposed to be combined with each other. And it's 24/7, seven veteran family members may seek support. So it seems that we do as part of Pro Mental Health, it's about access to services and communities, and along with and so we have created veteran hubs in 8 regions of Ukraine. It's a special vehicle that carries professionals, travels to communities to provide consultations, legal support, case management. Veterans may seek support. We have veterans here and we want to seek consultations. Sometimes it's run by local Department of Social Policy. We have many veterans. We don't know how to properly consult them on various issues. We need your vehicle, we need your consultants. One consultation may take 10 minutes or sometimes even a bit over an hour, depending on the complexity of a case, especially if we talk about legal support. So we have outreach state regions with this mobile hub. We also train psychologists and psychiatrists as part of our Unbreakable project because we have a prosthetic care project and we trained professionals to work with people with amputations, people who go through prosthetic and rehabilitation treatment. It's also very special communications in terms of psychology because it's a special type of disability which requires a special knowledge and efforts by psychologists and psychiatrists. Next slide, please.
І, власне, що ми за цей час зрозуміли? Програма
So,
реінтеграції ветеранів втілюється з 2014
this
року.
program has been implemented for the Ukraine since 2022, and what are some of our lessons learned? We need to expand access to psychological services. That's actually exactly what you're doing here. then we need to destigmatize psychological assistance and mental health for all Ukrainians, not just for veterans, because in general it's a global challenge. Veterans are also part of the society, similar to other people. So let's be honest. It's also very important to implement peer-to-peer support mechanism. The only veterans are in in the best position to understand veterans. Let's not pretend that it helps works otherwise. We need to use this peer-to-peer support mechanism. Veterans, psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health specialists are obviously much more respected by also veterans, so it's easier for them to work. Of course, we need to develop and work on standardization of service. There is a draft law on mental health, etc. So the efforts are ongoing. And it's also very important to combine psychological services with other social services, because often people come and say, I haven't yet received my disability benefit. People come with a sick file, and when they look through this file, people make various emotional responses, and then various needs come up, and they start to share their challenges with a lawyer. So lawyers, the social services, legal consultation is also an entry point to start a dialogue, and so it's very good if you have a psychologist nearby who can jump in. So it works very well together. Sometimes people come and think that they have illegal issues, but sometimes they just need to talk about it, about something. And coordination is also very important. That's what we're doing here. We coordinate with government, with donors, with veterans and public organizations. And that's how we have the best outcome.
Спасибі, пані Вікторія.
Thank you so much,
Я
Miss
хотіла
Victoria.
насправді трошки погратися з цим словом
Now I
стигматизація. Я
want to
розумію,
talk
що
a
це
little bit
правильний
about this
фаховий термін,
stigmatization.
науковий,
I
але
know that
можливо
it's very
простіше
appropriate
сказати
scientific
так,
term,
аби було зрозуміло
but
всьому
maybe we
світу,
can
звертатися
translate
до
it into
психологів
common
не
language.
соромно і не
It's
страшно.
don't be ashamed
Шановні
to seek
ветерани,
professional support. It's
а
not
вам
scary.
одразу це
Dear
спало на
veterans,
думку? Чи було соромно і
what do you
страшно
think
на
about
певному
it?
етапі?
Did you
А
feel
можливо,
ashamed or
ні,
scared?
недоцільно ви це вважали.
Maybe you thought
Якими
that
є
what
справжні сьогодні реальне за вашим
what
відчуттям і професійним,
what
і
do you
особистим
think
потребам
according to
ветеранів?
your profession?
Який є ваш
What
особистий
does
досвід?
real
Будь ласка,
veteran needs?
передавайте його.
Could you please share some of your personal and
Можливо, ви,
professional
будь ласка,
experience?
прошу
Please
Андрій
feel free
Кучер,
to add it to
починайте.
the mix.
Андрію,
Mr. Andrei Pucher, please feel free to start.
Бажаю здоров'я. По-перше, хочу сказати, що
Hello.
дякую за запрошення.
First
Я
of all, thank
багато
you much
бачу
for this
знайомих облич.
invitation.
Це круто,
I see
коли
so
захід
many familiar
пересікається на
faces
дотики
in this
рідні,
room.
обнімались, так
It's
приємно.
very
Ось вам,
good
будь ласка,
when
психологічна розрядка.
it's
Крім
a very good
того, я хочу
psychological
сказати, що
decompression just
дуже
to be
важливо
here.
пояснити, чому,
Moreover,
власне, я тут, бо
it's really important to
я
explain
представляю
why
спілку
I'm
поранених,
here.
і вони
I
достатньо
represent
такі,
the
знаєте,
Association of
суспільство
Wounded
вважається
Military
агресивною
Servicemen.
такою
We often
частиною
considered a kind
населення.
of aggressive
І в той же
population in
час дуже
society.
багато
There is a
проводиться форумів
misperception about
масових
us,
заходів, куди нас
and
запрошують.
there are many
Але це в
forums
основному
and
про
events
проговорення.
where we invite,
І,
but it's
власне,
mostly
я з цим
about
зіштовхнувся з
talking.
тим, що дуже
And
важко відрізнити
sometimes
дійсно ефективні заходи від тих
people
заходів,
struggle
які
to
просто
differentiate
на цьому
really
заробляють
effective
певні
actions,
іміджеві бали
really
і
effective
використовують,
events, and
вибачте,
events
ветеранів
done
задля
just for image,
певного
where
просування.
veterans are sorry
Тому,
exploited for PR
відповідно,
purpose.
зараз чому я тут? Тому що
So
я
why am I here?
вдячний Mental Health, про Mental Health за те, що
I'm
вони
grateful
роблять
to Pro
реальну
Mental
справу.
Health Project
Вони
for doing a very
приходять туди,
important
куди інші
thing.
організації не доходять до громад.
They
І чому
outreach
мені важливо з
communities
ним
where
працювати
there are
в
no
цій
other
організації? Тому
organizations.
що
It's
ця
really important
команда,
for me to
вона
cooperate with
покликала
them
експертів-ветеранів.
because
Вони не
this
почали
team relies on
створювати
veteran
щось
experts.
вигадувати і думати
They
над тим,
engage veteran
що
experts.
буде корисно,
They
чи
don't
переймають
make
чийсь
things
досвід,
up.
який в
They
принципі
don't
на
try
Україну
to
не
borrow
дуже
someone
прийнятний.
else's
Наприклад,
experience,
це
which is
дієслово
foreign
ніяк
experience,
ненавіджу,
which is
тому
totally
що
inappropriate
Україна,
for
як
Ukraine.
сказав Меттю, в
Because
тому числі
Ukraine,
це
as
унікальний
Matthew said,
процес,
it's
унікальний
quite a
період, і
unique
що
case,
важливіше,
unique
унікальний
process,
досвід, який
and
вміють
it's
отримати
unique
громади. Ніхто
experience.
не прийде з
No one,
гарячим
so
танчиком
no one
і не
will
з'їде
come
з
with
потягу і не видасть нам
a
рецепт,
suitcase of
як
magic
нам
tools.
з
No one will
ветеранами
give
бути
us
суспільством,
universal
а
recipe
найгірше,
how
що
to
ніхто
deal
не
with
скаже,
veterans in
як перемогти
society,
в цій війні.
and no
Тому
one will
я
give
вам
us a
скажу,
recipe for
що я
victory.
хочу, щоб
So what
ваша
am I talking
команда
about? I
от
just
дійсно
want to
росла в
make
цьому
sure
напрямі.
that your team grows and develops in this area. I hope veterans will join teams like this and add their expertise to implement changes and make the difference. As for me, well, it's really cool when we talk about it, but unfortunately, if in the practical dimension things are different, I'm not trying to paint it black. I'm just being realistic. Right now in the military, we have so-called morale and psychological support officer. So unless my comrade is on assignment, when he's not on the front line, his performance is duties. It's considered something not really important. It's not a priority in an army. We didn't have it at all. I'm from a paratrooper brigade. We were fighting in Mariinka, Donetsk region, and we were always low on staff. We needed machine gunners and riflemen. We didn't need psychologists. So if we extrapolate it to our existing realities, you just can imagine what's going on. So what to do here? I truly believe that us, veterans, well, we don't need people running after us. We don't need people telling us what to do. We just need some kind of support and we need some kind of motivation. And motivation is possible only in peer-to-peer case. Only that's the only way it works. Don't try to invent the wheel if you want to support a veteran. You need to build partnership with motivated people and you need motivated veterans to work with similar people. These are my comrades. They have similar experience. Another important thing, when we talk about treatment or when we talk about prevention, prophylaxis, by the way, I still have sessions with psychologists. So idea is psychosocial MHPSS, especially after injuries. It's a lifelong journey. It's not something temporary. It's your ongoing need because as I stop it, as soon as I let it go, I once again develop some symptoms. I'm going crazy. I become really aggressive. I really irritated, annoyed, and angered by some small thing. When you board a bus, no one cares about it. So just imagine, I need to complete medical evaluation to get a disability status. And when I go through the circles of I understand that I first need MHPSS and then I need medical examination. It's about the reality we live in. Our veterans are willing to support each other. We just need a little bit of support by society. And this is something these projects are doing. I have my comrades in this hall with me, Marina, Tanya, Taras, Alexander, and we have a veteran support specialist. These are people who will become the agents of changes in the future. So your initiatives will succeed when there are these agents like change like this in the community. You don't need to look for them, you just need to support them and they will have everything implemented. Your projects will be successful. I can talk a lot about it, but I understand that my time is limited, so I just want to show you a brief video. It's my own project, a project we did along with IREX. And as part of my work, I want to prove that if I can do it, it means you can do it as well. Now I'm talking to my veteran comrades. Nothing can stop us from helping other injured veterans, prisoners of war and their family members. And this video is filmed as part of IREX grant. I'm promoting it. Thank you, Alex, for doing it, because we have helped the 36 injured veterans. They had access to 10 sessions at the horse therapist session. And now let's take a look at the screen.
кінь для мене це не те, що я побачив перше в житті, скажімо так, я сам виріс в селі. І там спілкування з конями було тільки трішки на іншому рівні. Тут кінь відкривається трішки по-іншому, тут якраз за допомогою Ані і Катерини ти можеш з ними поспілкуватися, хоч воно виглядає так цікаво, як можна поспілкуватися. Вони навчають, як підійти до нього правильно, що можна потім цей досвід перенести зі спілкування з конем, ну, так візуальний, тактильний, ну, а досвід потім з людьми, що в свою чергу є корисно, є над чим подумати.
Ти починаєш перше налаштовуватися на спілкування, і поки ти щось плануєш з ним робити, там, підходити, погладити, то кінь тебе теж відсканував, і він як дзеркало, він бачить, хто ти, який ти і як з тобою спілкуватися.
Ну, раніше то я їздив, да. А зараз і страх такий менше вже пропав той, що треба. Я взагалі всього став боятися. А зараз як всього такого. Ну, животні теж ласку люблять, якщо так розібратися, так само, як і люди. Ну, дуже понравилось.
Маю там поранення, і з пораненням викликана ампутація ноги вище коліна. Тому були побоювання, що десь буде важко, десь буде незручно. Але я йшов на ту програму, щоб ці побоювання повністю виключити. Так, це вдалося повністю. З командою Spirit підібрали зручне мені положення, зручне сідло, тому все вийшло, все супер. Будь-яких обмежень для себе я не відчував. Всі вправи виконував на рівні з іншими учасниками.
Ну, я чомусь так, коли побачила рекламу в інтернет, мені дуже це було нагадало ті мої дні юності, коли я була жива, щаслива, скакала на конях і була безбашена така дівчинка. А й мені цього зараз не вистачає, бо через травму мені довелося пройти там певні обставини, і це було не про життя. От. І коли я прийшла сюди, у мене було одне бажання щось змінити, просто побути собою, щоб не виконувати чиїсь очікування, а просто бути.
Перший раз я за пару років розслабився, це було позавчора. Все в тонусі, ноги, руки, все тіло в тонусі, постійно в напруженні. А от це відчуття, забуте вже відчуття такого тотального розслаблення, подаровано мені коником, це дуже дивовижно.
Коли прийшов перший раз, я думав, чи зможу я їздити верхи, чи зможу я працювати з кіньми. А попрацювавши 2 тижні, мені дуже сподобалось. Я стільки вражень отримав. Я ніколи не думав, що робота з кіньми може приносити таке задоволення.
Дякую.
Спасибі, пане Андрію, дякую вам.
Thank
І
you so
прошу
much,
приєднатися
Mr.
до
Andrei.
розмови іншого пана
And
Андрія.
now I invite other Mr. Andrei to join our discussion. Andrei Kucho and then Andrei Panko. What your experience was like? How did you enter this process? How did your integration happen? And what do you think? What kind of psychosocial support and help is most needed and useful for the veterans?
Давайте трошечки звук підкрутимо на мікрофоні.
Let's fix the microphone a little bit. Collect. Thank you.
Сказали, що потрібно зробити для того, щоб зберегти ветеранів, яка їм потрібна допомога. А потім розкажу про свій власний досвід. Ви всі прекрасно знаєте, що в американців був бойовий досвід.
Перепрошую, зараз ми
I'm
владнаємо, тому що
sorry, we will now fix the microphone because we really want it to be a little bit loud so everyone can hear it.
і безумовно реагуйте на ті запитання,
And
які
of course,
звучали до того.
please feel free to answer the questions with previous. These questions are still open for discussion by everyone.
Інший мікрофон, що там?
Yes, Andrei, we'll try different microphone.
Не виходить. Можу тільки я
Okay.
поділитися, але давайте
I can share mine,
давайте
but let's try this one.
зараз спробуємо. Якщо ні, я повернуся до вас і знову
If
задоволена.
it does,
Супер, нарешті.
okay, that's better.
Вибачаюсь, в американців був
I'm sorry.
досвід В'єтнамської війни.
United
Після
States had
повернення
experience of
виникло
Vietnam
купа
War,
проблем, і це
and
всі
they had
знають,
a lot of
алкоголізм,
problems after
наркоманія,
return of
і вони
veterans,
втратили своїх ветеранів. Вони
drug
закінчили
addiction,
або в
alcohol
тюрмах,
addictions.
або
They lost
взагалі
many veterans who ended up
загинули.
in jail or
Єдине,
died.
де в них не було таких проблем, це було
The
в
only thing.
резервації. Чому? Тому що був соціум, розумієте? Взаємодопомога.
But
Ніхто
there
не
was no
відставав.
issues like this in reservations. There was a mutual assistance. No one fell out. Everyone supported each other. This is the reason why I want to present this resilience center. We have the center's director here, Oksana Grigorівна Spilovets. Please welcome her. Miss Oksana, your name was mentioned several times here. Thank you. Now let me tell you about my own experience, but I will start with my injury. I was injured in Kupiansk. I had my third injury, and I was evacuated to Chernivtsi for treatment. And the most thing I was impressed by is when volunteers brought me restaurant meals. I was nicely surprised. I knew that I did what I did for a reason. Second time I was shocked when I returned home. I was using walking aids. Someone called me and says, "You were injured." And someone says, "Yes, I was." And someone says, "We have a special psychosocial center. Its location is there and there. Maybe you need some help." Says, "Help only for me or for my family?" It says you can bring. It said you can bring anyone. I had challenging relations with daughter. We struggled to understand each other, so we went to the center. We had a session with the child psychologist. She asked me, whom did you need support? I said, my daughter. And she was surprised as so. And then Oksana Grigorьевна approached me. She gave me few important tips which totally solved the problem. I really changed my perspective. Then we developed some common ideas, so many joint ideas. We did so much together. Canine therapy, dogs. You know that dogs are very helpful. You saw many videos of our guys on the front line dealing with pets and dogs. I have a dog myself. This dog had been always with me. I never carried my dog to the front line, but when I was deployed near the Belarusian border, I had my dog, and even when I had a difficult day, my dog was really helpful. I could pet him, and I felt so much better. You just watched the video. It's a horse therapy. It's something incredible. It gives you incredible charge of emotions. We also did fishing. It feels really amazing when you can have some rest and relax. I was in Truskovets, and I had an idea about clay therapy. We also implemented it. You can learn more about it on Facebook. Just Google Live Psychosocial Rehabilitation Center. All the information is available on the website. When you're doing something with your own hands, when you are creative, when you do some wonderful things, amazing things, it feels totally different. We also had art therapy sessions. Actually, several of them. We had a workshop facilitated by Ivanka, and Ivanka helped us to do some painting. Helped us to do some paintings. We really wanted to bring them here to show you. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it, but you can just watch our artworks on Facebook. So we have so many ideas. For example, we have a kind of local Stonehenge. Everyone knows about Stonehenge in UK, but no one knows about similar place in Ukraine, a symbol of previous ages. I don't know what happened there. Maybe they did sacrifice, I'm not sure. But the symbols are very strong, and we have this ancient stuff. We can go to the stone village. So we came up with the idea about rafting. We have some amazing places, the Sokolini Mountains. You know, everyone travels far away to do rafting, but we have very similar natural landscape just next to our home. So I want to show this beauty to our veterans. This is the beauty we have fought for. Travel to Sarnen, Lviv, Zakarpattia, Chernivtsi, Ukrainian Paris. But no one knows about these cities. I once visited these locations. I was injured, not in the best shape, but I still enjoyed it. Lviv is an amazing town. Every city is amazing. I just want to show this beautiful nature, something we fought for. You know, very different people have different understanding of victory. I think that if we have a country, it's already victory. We lost some areas. Well, you don't prevail every day. You don't win every day, every battle. So why do you need a psychologist? When I sustained first injury in Torets, after this injury, you know, it's very scary to return after you're injured. Really. I called my friend. I had no idea about the center. I just called my friend who worked as a psychologist, and I called her and said, I just need to talk. She said, no worry, just call me anytime. I talked to her. I felt better. Honestly, after the injury, I was so happy that I survived. I was survived like a small child. I was survived that I survived this trouble. Most important thing is that I'm alive. Several curious ideas were voiced in this hall, so we really need to expand such centers. We need lawyers. A good lawyer may not sit there every time, but you may just outsource it. But it's not just about desertion, it's about there are so many issues in the army. You need a hub, one single window for service. Maybe you had fractured leg, like I did, and after such fractures, some hospitals we may do this cooperation with rehab centers, with resorts. We may send a person to have some treatment, whatever they need. Now I'm active military. I don't know what I'm going to do after the war is over. I had to go to the Czech Republic. If I still wonder if I'd go there. I have no idea how my life is about to change. But I really want to organize training. Some people have lost their jobs. We need skill conversion training for them. We need to make sure that that people care about them. If they want to get help, we should help them.
Не можу підказувати, слухаю. От я в
I'm
цей
just
момент
careful listen to you. I'm just thinking about what can be added here. Therapy is very, you know, yes, therapy, all right. So I think, you know, when you communicate with people, you can always share experience, borrow someone else's idea. It's just amazing.
Давайте я спробую зараз просто ще раз назвати.
So, forms of therapy you mentioned. And so it's peer-to-peer, right? It's veteran hub in the sense of single service window, an amazing idea, I assume. Oh, we also need 2 rooms. We need a special room where we meet with each other to solve our issues. We need a round table for peer-to-peer communication. There are no seniors, no subordinates, just a human being, just like you, sitting in front of you. And we need a special room where you can be alone, with a fireplace, with a big aquarium and books, where a person may just rest and relax and enjoy. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrei. Mr. Alexander, please continue. Please feel free to add, to comment, to share your experience and the experience of people who call your hotline. Okay, then I will continue. Of course, many words have been already said. and it's very difficult to add
але
something.
почну так само, як
But
Андрій, як
I will
решта з
start
подяк. Я
with,
дуже
as Mr.
дякую
Andre, with the words of appreciation.
організаторам за те, що
I'm
це
sincerely
все
grateful to organizers of this
що
event
дали
for
нам
making it
можливість
happen,
знову
for
зустрітися.
giving us
Бо
a
я тут бачу
possibility to meet
багато вже
again,
знайомих
because I see so many
облич і
familiar
багато вже
faces
тих, з
in
ким
this
я
room. I
встиг
see so many
потоваришувати.
people whom I
І дякую
have
взагалі
become friends with.
про Mental Health, вашому фонду
Thank you
за
so
те,
much
що
Pro
ви робите,
Mental
бо ця
Health
справа
for what
дуже
you're
важлива.
doing, because it's very important
По
cause.
суті, мені як ветерану все
I'm a
рівно, чи
veteran
це буде
myself,
проєкт як
so
від
I don't
якогось
care
іноземного фонду, чи це
who
буде
is
Міністерство
it
у
the
справах
project
ветеранів.
run by
Мені
the Ministry of
важливо
Veterans or by
в
some
своєму
foreign
регіоні,
foundation.
наприклад, я живу в Бориспільському
I
районі,
live
мені
in
важливо там
Borispil district,
отримати
and
якісні
it's
і системні
important
послуги.
for me
І
to
ви
have
якраз на
access to
цьому шляху, і ви
systematic
це
services,
показуєте, що це
and
робиться.
you're doing it,
У
you're
нас,
making it
власне, в
happen.
цьому напрямку багато
We
працює
have
установ, в тому числі
many
державні установи.
institutions,
Також
including governmental
я вірю в те,
institutions,
що я
working in
дочекаюсь
this
того
area,
моменту, коли
and
вже
I believe that one
буде
day
запроваджено так, що я зможу звернутися
I will
за
be
цими системними
able
послугами. Бо
to get access to these
насправді я
systematic and
досі не
consistent
можу цього
services,
зробити. Мені
because I still cannot do
часто
it.
відмовляють, говорячи
I
про те, що
often
я зараз
reject
вже не
it, I
діючий
often
військовий,
deny it.
і
They
просто
say I'm not
немає
active
місця,
military
немає
anymore,
можливості.
so there is no space
Є
for me.
таке,
No,
на жаль.
yes, unfortunately, it happens,
Але
but
рухається ситуація, бо
there is some
мені є з
progress.
чим порівняти. В
I
мої
know
останні два
I
повернення,
can.
по суті, це
I
16-й
returned
рік
to
пройшло
civilian life
повернення,
2 times.
яке
First
я
back in
проживав дуже
2016,
важко, і мені було дуже
which I really struggled
У
with.
вас було
It was
питання
really
стосовно того,
challenges.
як
So
мені
you
це
you
вдавалось,
once
та
asked me
практично
you
не
asked me about my
вдавалось.
experience. How did I
Інструменти,
manage to do
які
it?
я
Well, I didn't
використовував,
manage.
були, в принципі, доступними. Це
I use some
в
easily
магазині
accessible
алкоголь,
tools.
наприклад,
It's
чи ще
alcohol you
інші
can buy in
речовини,
any
які
store,
теж можна було
and other
отримати, і за
substances you
рахунок
could
цього я
easily get in the
намагався
streets.
вирішити питання.
That's
І
how I tried to
коли вже
address
я
my
узнав, що
issues.
можна насправді
So when I
звернутися до
learned
спеціалістів, то в
that
мене
you
не
can seek
було
professional
цього
support,
упередження,
I had
що
no
я не в силі, щоб
prejudice.
звертатися до психолога. Я
I
звернувся,
I
я
didn't
врешті-решт
care about
отримав цю
stigma.
допомогу,
I just sought
підтримку
support.
і
Finally, I got the support.
зрозумівши, що я сам
I
можу
got this
допомагати,
assistance and
опанував
realized
цю
that I can
професію вже
help
після
other people.
першого повернення
I
свого.
mastered
І
this
по
occupation.
суті,
I mastered
вже
this
років
new
10 я
profession,
займаюся
and for the last 10
власне тим,
years,
що
I
мої
have
основні клієнти це є
been
ветерани і
working with my
ветеранки.
clients. My clients are
Тому
mostly
друге
veterans.
повернення, воно швидко
So
відбулося,
my
буквально
second
через 2
comeback
тижні
was
після
quite
повномасштабної.
easy.
Там
I came back 2
були
weeks
тільки
after full-scale
проблеми,
invasion,
пов'язані
and the
з
only issue I
фізичним
faced
здоров'ям.
was some
Що
medical
стосується ментального,
problems.
то все нормально
As for
пройшло.
mental health,
От, а
everything
фізичне
was quite
здоров'я, ну,
fine.
досі треба
But
поправляти,
of course, I
бо
still in treatment
ситуація
to treat my
складна,
physical
мінно-вибухова
conditions.
травма,
I had a blast
забійся, все і так
injury, I
далі.
had a heart concussion,
Ось, тому
but still,
власне, про що я хочу зараз сказати. Я теж знаю,
but
Андрій,
still,
що у нас
I know,
не так
Andrei,
багато часу, а
that we don't have much
сказати десь
time.
хвилин на 40.
I have a 40-minute speech, but I will try to limit myself to fit into our timing.
Чи суспільство до
So,
ветеранів, чи ветерани
who's
до
supposed to get
суспільства.
prepared? Veterans for society
Я
or society for
закликаю
veterans?
не забувати про те, що
Please
ветерани
let
це
us
частина
remember that
суспільства. Це
veterans
не
are part
окрема
of society.
якась
They're not a
інопланетна така
separate
нація, яка полетіла, і нам
alien
треба
population.
вчитись з ними
We
спілкуватись.
don't need to
І
learn
це,
how to
звісно, це
communicate with them. They're
двосторонній
human beings,
процес,
just
як
like
у
you, and of
будь-яких
course it's a
відносинах.
bilateral process,
Дві сторони
like
йдуть
in
до
any
зустрічі одна
relationships.
одній для
You
того,
have
щоб
two parties
порозумітись.
who must find a
І
compromise,
я
find
завжди
a common
говорю, коли я
ground.
проводжу
And
тренінги
when I do
по
trainings
питанню того, як же ж правильно
on
спілкуватися,
how to
завжди
properly
на
deal with
початку говорю про
veterans,
те, що якщо ви
I
вмієте,
always
в
say
принципі,
that if you
спілкуватися
know
з людьми один з одним, то у вас не
how to
буде
talk with
проблем.
other people,
Або вони
you won't
будуть,
have any
бо
issues with
ветеран
communications
же
with
ж він з
veterans.
іншої сторони,
Of
і він теж
course,
може бути різною людиною,
because
да, там,
veterans are different.
своїм якимось
They have different
якостям.
temper, they have different human
Але ці проблеми
qualities,
вже не від вас будуть
but
залежати,
it's
виходить
not, it's
так.
beyond your
Ось.
control.
І стосовно
And
отаких от
now,
проєктів
as for
вони зараз
projects like
дуже
this
важливі,
one,
тому що
they are very important because,
а в мене
well,
мій підрозділ це
I'm a
14 психологів,
psychologist,
які
and I
на
have
лінії
14 other
консультують
psychologists in my
цілодобово.
department who
Як
work on
психолог і як
24/7
керівник я
hotline.
хочу
So as a psychologist, as a manager, I want to make sure that our referrals are high quality. I receive calls from all over Ukraine, from various regions, and the first point of contact for society, for veterans, is their families. And of course, the first challenges are always related to the families. The veterans and their family members have to deal with it. And then the second stage, the second thing they do is they call hotline, and we offer crisis mental health support. So we have to stabilize them, and then we kindly encourage them to seek some therapy. I mean, permanent therapy. Of course, it's not for everyone, but when we give people whom we operate, we refer to high quality services, so they don't call back to complain or or maybe call back to express appreciation. So, we don't want to receive these calls where people call back to us and says the psychiatrist is not there anymore. That service is not available any longer. Of course, psychiatric care is also important. Unfortunately, it's in demand, and sometimes it's very difficult to find professionals because stigma is all around. It's everywhere. But people don't tell me I won't go to psychologist because they will think I'm crazy. People say I will go to psychologist, but I want professional with military experience. Unfortunately, there are not enough psychologists for everyone. And to be honest, I have a few months long waiting line to have appointment with me. It's very unfortunate. But some psychologists may just refuse to work with military because they don't have enough expertise. I'm sorry, I've lost my thought, but doesn't really important. I will continue with a different thing. So, when we talk about training, and it's also part of this project, it's very good, and it's much needed. And when we say that we have veteran hubs, when we say that we have professionals, it's also very good. And then it's up to them to work in communities, and they may have various issues there. Salaries, 8,000 hryvnias per month. It's not really appropriate for a psychologist. You mentioned it today. You mentioned these pricing rates. Obviously, I will not register with the ministry if you offer pricing rates like this. We need competitive wages, and we really need this competition. We need high quality, top-notch professionals, certified professionals. So there are a lot of things to be changed. Once again, let me give you another tip, and it's just my personal opinion. You may not agree with me. The Ministry of Veterans may not agree with me.
My favorite opinion, or the opinion of my favorite donor is not reflected. It can be subjective. I'm not saying I am an expert. Yet I have the experience as a veteran, as a psychologist, as a beneficiary and service provider. Therefore, I speak frankly as it is. And this is what I would like to say. Actually, wonderful ideas have been discussed by the veterans. The way I feel it, just wonderful. Yet it's comprehensive. We speak a lot of the systemic approach and the comprehensive approach. And here I can see everything. The educational projects, the programmatic programs of employment, MHPSS, everything is comprehensive. Just your opinion, Ludmila, I would like to hear. Another side, the service provider. Could you please tell me from your perspective, how does it work? Do you work with veterans? Good afternoon, dear friends, dear Anna, dear community. Indeed, I am service provider. I'm a psychologist, crisis advisor. I'm leader of one of the centers of MHPSS, of the Fund of International Solidarity of the Republic of Poland in Ukraine, and one of the participants of the second forum on mental health. Usually in my office, I provide individual advice, family advice, and yet, when I am among the participants of such a panel, I become vulnerable and emotional. And this is noticed by the coordinators of our program, also my colleagues, also everybody else. And it means that mental health is about human relations. Even in leaders of centers and psychologists, they first of all see the people. When on the panel of resilience, they also say was a recovery, they requested to make the recording. I made one short word, people. Those are the people whom we meet more than once, and today I would like to thank for service every military and every veteran, and also every person who is waiting for his hero to come home. It's also emotional because if there are such sincere revelations as today, when we come to the panel and Andrei, whom I see for the first time, asked me if I am excited, as if I was providing support, and I'm sincerely asked if I'm excited, if I'm worried, and I can catch his side, which is supportive. When there are such art presentations of the wives who are waiting, this is all about humanity. So mental health is about humanity. When the coordinators call me, they say, well, Ludmila, please don't worry. Please just don't worry, everything will be just fine. However, of course, I'm a specialist and I work with veterans. Coming back to your question, on our center provides also individual advice of families and group advice to veterans and servicemen, as members of family of those who have died in the war and those who are waiting, still expecting people to be back from the front line. I live in the center of the city, and every time I'm driving by our Independence Square. On that Independence Square, there are portraits of our defenders. There are quite many of them. They are so numerous. Yet I have noticed one thing, that every time over those portraits there are flocks of birds or cranes. I did not see that just one bird is flying there. This has never happened, and I thought for myself and found the explanation why it is like this. And I found absolutely whether it was checked by the study or the specialist must be guided by checked, well-checked studies. When the birds fly in flocks, the one who flies in front is helping to lift, to raise to the one who flies behind. When they fly in flocks, they fly faster, 71 kilometers per hour faster, according to some research. I don't know what was the comparison beforehand. However, we cannot be alone, and the veteran cannot be alone. It's very nice that today there are such foundations as Pro Mental Health, representatives of local governments, representatives of the regional government, veterans, and also civilian citizens, those who are concerned of psychosocial support in Ukraine, because we feel that we are not alone. Among us, there is a Ministry of Social Policy, the Ministry for Veterans and Reintegration. Our center also works with them, and we have a contract since June, and we provide services to the Ministry of Veterans. I'm happy to hear the Ministry of Veterans that they would like to appreciate our work, they would like to appreciate our contribution, and this is really powerful. Because working 254 hours hryvnia per hour is difficult, and yet we agree to do it, because we are working not really for money, but rather for the people, for the sake of people, for the sake of those who require it. Also, as I say, continuing the topic of the flock of birds and cranes, when in front somebody is getting tired, as I think there is no creativity or consciousness, he goes behind, and the next one becomes the leader. This is important, and it would be also good as the mental health and the Fund of International Solidarity would support, could have supported any ministry that somebody is behind them, because as today it was discussed by Pavel Kost, that this is really important to scale up, to roll out, and for us as specialists of the centers, this is also important. It would be nice if there is such sensible cooperation. If some bird becomes injured, then two other birds would stay with him, and they would fly next to him. And when they recover or when they die, then those birds return back to the main flock. Working with the families of veterans and servicemen, we try to be next to them. Because the colleagues have discussed that resilience is a natural thing. The doctor discussed it, and yet there is another thing which is worthwhile to remember. That according to Israeli specialists who made a study after a Lebanese war and Israeli war, 15% of families are receiving historical trauma when parents tell their children that please don't make friends, or please don't go there, or it is dangerous, or please don't read those books, or don't listen to those poets or writers. Therefore, I say that we need to work proactively. Therefore, we work in detail with families of the servicemen and also children and adults. This happens rarely. In fact, when members of family of servicemen, including wives and mothers of full age, are involved, we are thankful to pro-mental health. This is important, and this is appreciated by our visitors. With Andrei, we had a moment when we said that veteran was a veteran, veteran is for the veteran, and yet we have the experience. It's nice that Andrei changed his opinion. Am I right? By the way, Andrei wanted to respond. Please use this opportunity that you could also. I would like to finish. Actually, I'm living in a region with a lot of military units. I think this can be discussed here. And our center has 6 memoranda of mutual understanding. According to Andrei, he can be a good sniper or machine gunner, and yet it's difficult for them to fulfill the psychological support tasks. This is what I'm saying. And then they refer to our center. They refer to our centers, and we provide such servicemen with support. As far as veteran ministry is concerned, the percentage of reimbursement is not big, and yet the scope of work is much bigger. However, when we go to the range with 56 servicemen, we don't always have every opportunity to take a list of documents from them as it is requested by the Ministry of Veterans. Yet we do more. When we go to the range and there are 60 servicemen, they are actively deployed servicemen, sometimes they don't have such a package of documents with them. Therefore, those are important and valuable things in the work of our centers. In the same manner, I'm also happy to note, I think those were the studies of Harvard University when they say that with such powerful other companies where 70% are working and just 30% are talking. Today, I would like to note that in pro-mental health, 80% are working, and just 20% are talking. This is really true. This is not to overestimate anyone, because this cannot be overestimated. The contribution of our donors and our partners today into our Ukrainian society today. When we can see it from inside, we can and we have the right to talk about it. Therefore, it's valuable to me. Today's meeting is valuable to me, and each of you is very valuable, who do their best to participate and who make the understanding and also bring their heart with hearts. We discuss the salaries and other things, yet with no heart, nothing is possible. Absolutely nothing is possible. I would like to thank the local governments where I live because they took 100% of the budget in order to support our center. Therefore, simply I would like to request to take care of yourselves as a psychologist now, and to remember that each of you is very valuable. Please remember that only together, only as a flock of birds, we can reach, we can achieve everything that we would like to achieve. Thank you, Ludmila. It's a wonderful image, and yet, for 1 second, there will be also the answer. My experience tell me I don't have to argue with a woman. It's a good experience. I would like to add that it's an important event, that let us notice an important thing, that today we shall have a useful instrument which has a context of organizations that you and civilians, also veterans, can today and tomorrow use in your work. For example, as far as my union is concerned, we have now enrollment of veterans and their families, the active military, how to make money on Telegram. If it is fine, from next year we shall teach the veteran bloggers. Also, we have the jogging club, and also for families, and please join, because active sports is important. And also, if you have someone out of the prisoners of the war, I have my peer Taras and Tanya, they're involved. Please get involved. I'm just saying that right now, right here and now, we have the opportunity in our hands. And again, it depends on us. How shall we use this opportunity? I forgot two important words in my previous speech. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Thank you very much indeed, dear friends. I would like to thank all the participants of this panel. I would like to thank Ludmila for the wonderful image of the bird who flies. I would like to wish everyone also to raise high the skies and help others, help the flock to fly higher, or to help also someone else. I would like to introduce once again the participants of this panel. Людмила Одварко, head of Dubny Center of Psychosocial Support of Rivne Oblast. Andriy Opalko, senior combat medic of 104th Brigade of Territorial Defense of 60th Separate Battalion, the Wolves of Polisia of the Territorial Defense Forces. Alexander Chamorso, veteran psychologist, head of the hotline of Ukrainian Veteran Foundation. Ludmila Zhukh, the acting head of the Department of Psychology of the Department of Physical and Mental Health of the Ministry for Veterans. Victoria Klimchuk-Dlugach, senior leader of Ukrainian Fund of Fast Response, IREX. And Andriy Kucher, founder of the Union of Injured Military of Ukraine, the Strong 300. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you for participation in this panel. You may return back to the room. Yet, this is not the end of the event. We have another important activity in order to make it. I would like to invite to the stage Pavel Kost, head of the representative office of the Foundation for International Solidarity in Ukraine. is probably truth. This is confirmed.
До вас одне запитання. Я б хотіла
I have a
попросити
question to
вас
you.
зробити
I would like you to make
підсумки форуму
to strike the official balance of the forum about the mental health. If not so officially, what do you think? Which summary can we finish today with? Which plans, most useful conclusions shall we go into the future? And how do you see the image of that future for your further work and our joint work? I don't really know. With no jokes.
Дуже багато думок,
Quite a lot of ideas I have,
які безумовно будемо всіма
which
нашими силами
with all our capacity we shall do our best to implement into the real life.
які напевно доведеться трішечки
Most
підкоригувати
probably we need to adjust our model. Well, this is natural. This is not for the first and not for the last time. We treat this quite easily. I would like to thank everybody for participation, both in this panel as well as in the communication over coffee and over lunch. I would like to thank the veterans for the wonderful dinner. When I came, it was cold because the discussion was so interesting.
Насправді цей форум, окрім
Actually, this forum, in addition to all those thoughts and the adjustments that we shall probably implement,
додає додаткових
gives additional conviction that the discussions are important, the meetings are important. Communications, this is what we need to do.
Час роботи, він давно настав.
Yeah. However, it's high time to get busy working in the field, and we need to continue this work as quickly as possible with high quality and with joint forces. This is what I would like to request you about the cooperation and openness with us, frankliness, constructive criticism. We are ready for that. I would like to thank you, and I expect to meet you on different spaces and also when doing the work. Thank you very much indeed, Pavlo. Dear friends, dear Pavel, thank you very much indeed. We have important announcements. Shall we consider that the forum is closed? However, you still have 1 hour for communications and networking, as this can be very useful, as you have just heard. Also, I would like to draw your attention for those who stay in this hotel. The checkout is till 1800 and 1830. We have a transport. 1830, there is a departure of the transport to the central railway station. And finally, one important final activity. We all need to make a family photo just next to this banner. Please, shall we do a family photo all together? I kindly request everyone, those who have begun to have coffee, please approach, that we don't lose this opportunity. As you come together, I would like to thank all of the participants.
Хтось зверху, хтось знизу. Я думаю, а хто фотографує?